Chapter 553. Qiao Jin and the others were filled with rage because of these people's violent deaths, and towards these bird beasts, they totally didn't show any mercy. Their killing was called ruthless and merciless. In a split second, the entire marketplace's ground was covered with the blood of those huge bird beasts. The birds and beasts let out shrill screams, and the hundreds of birds and beasts were instantly reduced to only 20. These bird beasts' blood-colored eyes turned even more sinister and bloodthirsty. Flapping their huge wings, they swept up layers of wind and waves as they flew up into the sky. They raised their long necks as their mouths kept giving out that series of cries. "They're summoning their companions." Yiqing Luo's expression was cold. These bird beasts were all in the intermediate and advanced grades and had their own consciousness. Beasts were extremely sensitive towards danger. Just like when they saw Dmo Xian, they knew that this person was dangerous, so they didn't dare to attack him. After they realized that Yiqing Luo and the others were in danger, they should have left in group. But unfortunately, these bird beasts actually summoned their own companions, in a vain attempt to continue contending against them. Was this because of the bird beasts' pride, or, before they completed their mission, they didn't dare to leave easily? Just a moment later, the marketplace's sky turned pitch black. Densely packed bird beasts were hovering in the sky. The fishy stench from their flapping wings merged with the entire marketplace's blood stench, making one feel nauseous. Looks like these bird beasts are going to massacre the entire marketplace before they leave. Qiao Jin stared at the bird beasts in the sky as he clenched the gold coin darts in his hands tightly. The densely packed bird beasts, as compared to what they saw previously, had doubled in number. Previously the bird beasts were all on land, fighting with them. But now, these bird beasts were hovering in the sky and didn't charge down to make a move on them. But that series of sharp cries seemed to be urging them, which really made them terrified. "Xiao Yi, you and Shiju search around to see if there's anyone alive." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a cold glint flashed past. These bird beasts were actually so intelligent. They knew how to make use of their numbers and cries to break the opponent's mentality. In their hearts, after the fear towards them was born, then they would break them one by one. This kind of intelligence. It didn't seem like a bird beast at all. Yiqing Luo kept the deep thoughts in her eyes as her eyes flashed. Pay attention, these bird beasts might suddenly attack. Shiju and Yan Xiaoyi carefully walked towards the pile of corpses. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile. Kill. Were these birds trying to play psychological warfare with her? That would depend on whether she would allow it or not. Yiqing Luo's entire body emitted a gush of cold glint as she opened her feather fan and with a leap, numerous silver threads shot out into midair. Little Nine's body flashed and was already lying below Yiqing Luo. By the time Yiqing Luo was seated properly, its four limbs moved and it dashed towards the densely packed flock of birds and beasts. Each of the silver threads was sharp. Another stream of mystical energy flowed, and as it swept towards the herd of beasts, the coarse birds and beasts were sliced into two halves. The rest of the people on the ground also moved quickly. Using the surrounding walls as a springboard, he leaped into the air. Every time it jumped, it could kill several birds and beasts. The cries of the birds and beasts became even more shrill and shrill. Fresh blood, the stench of blood, splashed onto Yiqing Luo's face and her clothes. It added a bloodthirsty flirtatious charm to that gorgeous face of hers. Chapter 554. The feather fan in Yiqing Luo's hands waved even faster as her footwork gradually increased. She continued to kill the bird beasts in front of her as she guided her profound jade heart's profound qi towards the direction which she controlled. That wave after wave of profound qi surged out from her body. Mo Han Shang stood on the wall as his action of killing the bird beasts halted. Growing up in the mercenary association since young, he had seen too many people. Mo Han Shang had developed an ability to recognize people. From the first time he met Yiqing Luo, he knew that this beautiful lady who didn't seem to have any profound qi, like an ordinary person, was absolutely not as simple as she looked on the surface. Her body carried a gust of righteous chi, and she had the craftiness and quick-wittedness of a devil from hell. This kind of complicated temperament on Yi Qing Luo's body was so harmonious. In Death God Castle, he saw Yi Qing Luo's quick-wittedness and ability. But at this moment, seeing Yi Qing Luo's moves, he was completely subdued by her. It was a strange, ghost-like footwork, clean and efficient actions. When he saw fresh blood, a flash of excitement and bloodthirst flashed past her eyes. This kind of her, as compared to the usual her, was very different, but this kind of her was so mesmerizing, making one fall for her. Han Shang. A chilly tender rebuke was heard, and immediately a red ray shot towards him. That was Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan. That fan spun at an extremely fast speed, directly brushing past Mo Han Shang's cheek. He heard a miserable shriek behind him, and immediately felt a stench of blood coming from his back. That feather fan split that bird beast which was sneaking an attack on Mo Han Shang into two halves, and immediately it returned to Yi Qing Luo's hand. Han Shang, this is a chance for you to learn from experience. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was calm as she looked at him. Only through continuous battles, to absorb experience from battles, will you be able to comprehend. Mo Han Shang was stunned as he clenched the long sword in his hand tightly. In battle, the most taboo is to be absent-minded. If there's a next time, I will not lend a helping hand. After Yi Qing Luo finished this sentence, she dashed into the crowd of bird beasts once again. This wasn't a good habit. Yi Qing Luo must prevent Mo Han Shang from being absent-minded. If he lost focus in battle, he would be handing his life over to the enemy. When Mo Han Shang heard that, his entire body stiffened as a sliver of resolution surfaced on his handsome face. He didn't care if Yi Qing Luo could see it or not as he nodded his head hard towards her direction. Following that, he clenched the long sword in his hand tightly as he dashed into the crowd of bird beasts once again. The four of them were fighting at the front line while Dmo Xian stood amidst the corpses strewn all over the ground. His gaze was fixated on Yi Qing Luo without blinking. He watched as she dealt with the birds and beasts cleanly and swiftly. Her figure as she moved between the birds and beasts was so graceful and agile. His eyes were gradually filled with smiles. Suddenly, from the other end of the marketplace, Yan Xiaoyi's voice was heard. Found it? There are living people here. That was the tea house where Yi Qing Luo led the World Group's youngsters to drink tea that day. The owner of the tea house was hiding in the pile of straw behind the kitchen. He was only crushed by the collapsed house, but he was still alive. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she squinted her eyes as she looked at Yan Xiaoyi. She and Shi Ju were dragging a man who was covered in blood, carrying him out of the collapsed tea house. Yi Qing Luo let little Nine settle the bird beasts in front of her. With a leap, she speedily walked over to that side. The tea house's owner was trembling all over, and on seeing Yi Qing Luo and the others, his eyes flashed past a glint of radiance. Yi Qing Luo half squatted down as she grabbed the tea house's owner's hand, checking on his extremely weak pulse. Chapter 555. If Yan Xiaoyi was a little later, the tea house boss would probably have to swallow his anger. Yi Qing Luo took out some pills from the profound phoenix ring and fed it to the tea house boss. Following that, she helped him bandage his wounds. Seeing the pain on the tea house boss's face gradually subsiding and his complexion getting better, she opened her mouth to ask, "What's going on?" The tea house boss's bloodied hand grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly. "I don't know. These bird beasts suddenly rushed in and ate all the people in the marketplace." That scene was extremely bloody and cruel. The tea house boss was holding some firewood in the kitchen when he saw that scene. Those bird beasts directly descended from the sky, like an arrow leaving the bow. Their sharp claws grabbed onto a person's shoulder and tore that person into two halves. As the house collapsed, he hid in the grass and saw everything around him clearly. The more he thought, the more the tea house boss trembled, as his face was filled with fear and terror. "Other than you, Are there any other people alive? Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. The ground had already been dyed red with blood, but she couldn't tell if it was the stall owner's blood or the bird beast's blood. After searching for so long, Yan Xiaoyi only found the teahouse boss. These bird beasts were really vicious. Gone. All gone. The teahouse boss's voice kept on trembling. That flock of bird beasts came too ferociously, too suddenly, we didn't even have time to react. People are already all gone. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, as her vision suddenly congealed on that drawing old man who sat opposite the teahouse the day before. He said that he wanted to use his own brush to draw down all the beautiful things. But did he know that the beautiful things he thought had harmed the entire marketplace? If it wasn't for the fact that they had stopped here that day, the people in the marketplace would not have been targeted by the dark forces. Hatred started to burn from the bottom of her heart. She clenched her fists tightly, as her brows were filled with a cold viciousness. Dark forces. She would not let them off. Other than these bird beasts, did you see any other suspicious people? Yiqing Luo had always felt that these bird beasts were not the only ones who came here. If it wasn't for the fact that someone was instigating them from behind. Even if they had their own willpower, it was impossible for them to know. Psychological warfare. Moreover, beasts had a strong sense of danger. Even though they knew that they were no match for them, they still came wave after wave. Either that or the pride of these birds and beasts did not allow them to retreat. Otherwise, if they left before killing all the people in the market, they would be treated even more severely. Yiqing Luo was leaning towards the latter. No. The teahouse owner paused and suddenly thought of something. Yes. It seems like there was a person among the birds and beasts, a person wearing a black cloak. He left the market safely. The birds and beasts didn't attack him. At that time, he was hiding under the thatch and could not see clearly. He only felt that the black-cloaked man was really bold, actually daring to walk around these ferocious birds and beasts. It was only after the black-cloaked man left that he realized something was wrong. The black-cloaked man? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as she exchanged glances with Yan Xiaoyi. Sure enough, it was the dark forces. Their conjecture was indeed not wrong. Yiqing Luo abruptly stood up as her sharp vision swept across the entire marketplace. In the sky, the birds and beasts were still circling around, giving out ear-piercing cries, continuously summoning their own kind. From this stance, it was obvious that they were going to fight to the death with Yiqing Luo and the others. Yiqing Luo was even more certain. Chapter 556. Shi Ju, carry the teahouse owner back to the mansion. Yiqing Luo indicated for Yan Xiaoyi to carry the person onto Shi Ju's back. I'll leave the rest to you, I'll go look for that black-cloaked man. After a pause, he continued, after you're done with the bird beasts, go directly to the mercenary guild to hand in your mission. Don't worry about me. Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed. No, it's too dangerous. The people of the dark world were indeed strange. Moreover, they were in the light while the enemy was in the dark. To Yiqing Luo, it was too dangerous. Her words had not even finished howling when Yiqing Luo had already turned into a bolt of lightning, charging towards the periphery of the marketplace. Yan Xiaoyi's brows creased. If she chased after them, her ability wasn't enough and she would only drag Yiqing Luo down. She turned her head to look at Diamo Xian and was just about to run towards him when she saw that a mortal-like figure had already chased after Yiqing Luo's footsteps, following up. Yan Xiaoyi let out a sigh of relief. As long as Di Zun was here, everything would be fine. Yiqing Luo stood on the outer treetop as she narrowed her eyes and surveyed the surroundings. These birds and beasts were all hovering in the air around this area. In other words, the black-cloaked man was definitely nearby. The direction from which these birds and beasts were attacking, Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she speedily dashed towards the area where the birds and beasts were concentrated. Sure enough, he saw a person shrouded in a cloak standing under a tree not far away from the market. They were stooped and skinny. It was impossible to see the other party's face clearly. It was exactly the same as Duke Jing's description. Her guess was right. Yiqing Luo sneered as her footsteps changed rapidly. The black-cloaked man reacted very quickly. At the instant when Yiqing Luo stared at him, he turned into a black shadow and speedily retreated, hiding among the magical beasts. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered with a cold glint as her lips curled into a cold smile. Trying to escape? Before she could move her feet, a figure had already passed her and headed towards the direction where the black-cloaked man had hidden himself. A gust of wind rose from his palm, and the condensed profound chi lifted his head of black hair, making him look as elegant as dust. Shortly after, he felt a palm wind that could devour mountains and rivers slashing over. The flocks of birds and beasts were instantly blasted into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere and minced meat flew everywhere. However, under the birds and beasts, the black-cloaked man was nowhere to be seen. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo caught up with the man's footstep. He ran away. Dmo Xian replied calmly, chase. He never made a move easily. If there was a chance for Yiqing Luo to train, he would absolutely not interfere. However, they were from the Dark Coalition. It was the dark forces that had been plotting against Lil Luo'er and wanted Lil Luo'er's life. He absolutely couldn't let it go. Yiqing Luo nodded and the both of them headed towards the direction which the black-cloaked man disappeared toward. Along the way, the abstruse yin qi from the dark forces was extremely dense. The black-cloaked man's speed was extremely fast, and his reaction was also godly. Following the black-cloaked man's xian yin qi, he chased after him for 100 miles. Not good. I've been tricked. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and stopped in her tracks. 50 kilometers. She couldn't even catch up within 100 miles? She didn't believe that the black-cloaked man was that fast. Even if she couldn't catch up, it was impossible that Dmo Xian couldn't catch up, right? But that black-cloaked man seemed to have disappeared from the surroundings. Other than the remnant profound yin qi, she couldn't sense any other presence. This profound yin qi was obviously left behind intentionally by the other party, to mislead them. It was really the dark forces style. Forever hiding in the dark, like a rat in the dark. Dmo Xian's gaze was eerily cold, as his eyes seemed to be wrapped with a layer of frost. What a great dark force! Savage to such an extent. Chapter 557. After the black-cloaked man left, these bird beasts seemed to have been freed from their restraint. Instantly, one by one, they escaped at lightning speed. By the time Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian returned to the Mercenary Association, Long Yunzhan and the others had already left. Apparently, they had listened to Yiqing Luo's words and hurried over to the Mercenary Association to submit their mission. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian also followed closely to the Mercenary Association. But when the two of them rushed over to the Mercenary Association, they heard the mercenaries who were passing by the Mercenary Association with grave expressions, discussing something. They could vaguely hear them saying the World Group, Yuqi and other similar words. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly sunk as she pulled one of the people who were discussing. What happened? That person was talking excitedly and on seeing someone asking, he immediately replied, earlier the World Group's group leader came over to submit their mission. You know about the World Group, right? Our mercenary group is the first mercenary group to be promoted to a bronze plate on the second day of its establishment. Something happened to them. Earlier, when they were promoted to a mercenary group, everyone was still very happy. Group leader received news from the mercenary badge that the World Group's headquarters had been surrounded by the Yuchi family. It's such a pity for this the World Group, they are all young and promising youngsters, why did they offend a large family like the Yuchi family for no reason? The people who were discussing shook their heads regretfully. A newly risen mercenary group, without any powerhouse behind them. But now they were surrounded by one of the four great families, the Yuchi family. This mercenary group absolutely could not survive. Yuchi family? Surrounded the World Group? Yuchi Peng? He actually dared to divulge the mansion's address. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her lips curled into an extremely cold arc. She wanted to see what this Yuchi family was trying to do. 3 Spring City, in front of the mansion. The commoners stood far away as they looked at everything in front of them, feeling extremely puzzled. This mansion looked old and dilapidated, and the owner of the mansion was very low profile. How did they offend the Yuchi family for no reason? Whereas when Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian rushed over on Little Nine, they saw the majestic scene outside the mansion. Around a few thousand people, dressed in the Yuchi family's uniform, surrounded the entire mansion. This street, which wasn't exactly bustling with people, was now extremely crowded. Yuchi Peng and Duke Jing stood at the entrance of the mansion, and beside them stood a middle-aged man dressed in a navy blue luxurious robe with an imposing manner. They had not argued with each other yet. Standing at the door was Baiming Liancheng. He frowned and was negotiating with the middle-aged man. While speaking of anger, the middle-aged man shouted in a stern voice, "Dark forces? Call your vice-commander out for this patriarch." This patriarch would like to personally ask, what is a dark force? This person was actually the patriarch of the Yuchi family. He was Yuchi Peng's father. What was the Yuchi family trying to do by bringing out such a large force and even mobilizing their patriarch? The head of the Yuchi family seemed to want to barge in forcefully, but he was stopped by Baiming Liancheng. Do you know who this patriarch is? The Yuchi patriarch waved his palm towards Baiming Liancheng's chest. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she leapt down from Little Nine's back. The feather fan in her hands released a burst of strong airflow, forcefully forcing Patriarch Yuchi's palm chi to retreat. Yiqing Luo. Father, it's her. Duke Jing and Yuchi Peng spoke at the same time as they stared at Yiqing Luo, as their eyes were filled with hatred. What show was this? Chapter 558. The World Group. What a great group! You even dare to touch Yuchi family's eldest young master's hand. If this patriarch doesn't massacre the entire world group today, then this patriarch will be letting down the Yuchi family's ancestors. Yuchi family's patriarch's face flushed red as he was unable to restrain his anger. The successor whom he had painstakingly nurtured was destroyed just like that. Yiqing Luo, you dare to use the dark forces as an excuse to spread rumors about the dark forces, chopping off our future patriarch's right hand. You're trying to destroy our Yuchi family. Behind him, Yuchi family's guard berated her sternly. Our 4th young master was injured by you and now you're laying your hands on our eldest young master. What a vicious heart you have. Yiqing Luo had met this guard before. Wasn't he the helper whom Yuchi-ya had found outside Pristine Elixir Medicine Hall, Yuchi family's elite guard? You said 4th young master let her. Yuchi family's patriarch narrowed his eyes as he sized up Yiqing Luo coldly. What a great Yi family's 7th miss. I'd not expected it to be you. Both his sons had suffered a loss in the hands of this lady. One was crippled and almost lost his life. The other's right hand was chopped off, which meant that his entire life was ruined. Yiqing Luo, you spread the dark forces and intentionally hurt Yuchi family, targeting Yuchi family. Today, even if your 3 Springs sect kneels down to apologize to this patriarch will absolutely not forgive you. The manor was surrounded by Yuchi family's people, and these Yuchi family's people were blaming Yiqing Luo with righteous indignation. Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm as water as her lips curled into a cold arc, as she watched Yuchi family's patriarch's flushed face coldly from anger, looking at their nonsense, as though she was looking at a clown jumping around. Her attitude made Yuchi family's people even more displeased. Those guards who had once suffered a loss because of Yuchi-ya at Yiqing Luo's hands started to speak one after another, bringing out the matters between Yiqing Luo and Yuchi-ya. Their words had already turned Yiqing Luo into a vicious person. Yiqing Luo continued to look on coldly from the side, because in her eyes, these people weren't worth her nonsense. But she had not expected that just as the situation was in chaos, Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly flashed. Looking in that direction, he saw a guard quietly approaching the youths of the World Mercenary Group. This guard suddenly made a move and his sharp killing intent pressed towards Baiming Lianqing, who was standing at the door. Impudent! Yi Qing Luo cried out delicately as the feather fan in her fingertips shook and a red glow swept past everyone's line of sight. With this swing of her fan, 10% of the profound qi was released, and in an instant, that guard was sent flying. The Xian qi then brushed past the tree at the side, and the bark of the tree penetrated into the wood. Everyone was stunned by Yi Qing Luo's sudden move, and the World Mercenary Group's men immediately reacted to what had happened earlier. "You're too much." This is clearly a guilty conscience. This woman is so arrogant. She's clearly making an enemy out of our Yuchi family. The members of the Yuchi family were all filled with righteous indignation. They were like tigers that had their buttocks kicked. Both sides were originally suppressing their anger. Now that the fuse had been lit, what reason was there to explain? Momentarily, several people from the Yuchi family rushed towards Yi Qing Luo, wanting to settle the score with her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as the feather fan in her hands flipped once again, and a burst of Xian qi struck towards the group of people who were rushing forward. The few Yuchi family's guards joined hands and barely managed to obstruct it. But they were jolted so much that they kept retreating, and finally fell on their buttocks onto the ground. Strong. Very strong. Chapter 559. Those elite guards who had clashed with Yi Qing Luo previously knew that Yi Qing Luo's skills were very strong. Only, meeting again today, they felt that this young lady was even more astonishing than the first time they met. Obviously, it had only been a month's time. Why did she improve at such a godly speed? A surge of fear arose in the elite guards' hearts. Yi Qing Luo's eyes squinted as her pink lips curled upwards, curling into a cold arc. Her gaze shot straight towards Yuchi Peng. Her long and narrow eyes looked enchanting. But that eerie chill seeped out from her eyes, making Yuchi Peng subconsciously shudder. What are you all still in a daze for? Take down this demoness who spread her lies. Yuchi family's patriarch saw his eldest son being frightened by a young lady as he shrank towards his side. His face instantly lost its shine. He had brought along so many guards, but they couldn't even stop a small mercenary group's vice-group leader? So what if she was Three Springs Sect's young matriarch? Anyone who hurt his son whom he had painstakingly nurtured had to die. Especially in front of so many people, he had so many guards. Just a single Yi Qing Luo made his Yuchi family's guards run away with their tails between their legs? In future, where would Yuchi family's face be placed? No matter how fearful those elite guards were towards Yi Qing Luo, but with their master's command, they had to brace themselves and go forward. Moreover, thousands of guards were all here. No matter how powerful Yi Qing Luo was, she would have to pay for it here today. Thinking of this, the elite guards' gazes turned piercingly cold as they exchanged glances. Following that, 10 overguards leapt upwards at the same time, blocking in front of those guards who had been overturned by Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't hesitate as she directly released her profound qi and dashed into the guards. The red feather fan in the young lady's hands was like a flame as it flew over. The elite guards subconsciously recalled 1 month ago when they worked together to protect Yuchiya. Vigilance. That kind of vigilance. They released all their senses but were totally unable to stop Yi Qing Luo. A fear arose in the elite guards' hearts. Deeply afraid that Yi Qing Luo would disappear before their eyes and suddenly appear behind them, slipping their necks. Because of this fear, the feather fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands had already split apart the 10 overguards who were charging towards her. She curled her lips and her eyes curved up. A trace of craftiness flashed across her eyes. Now, these people had been split into 2 by her, opening up a path. This was the path she wanted. Since the Yuchi family wanted a result, she would give them one. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo suddenly struck out as the red feathered fan appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Following that, her movements were as fast as lightning, and in a blink of an eye, she overturned those Yuchi family's guards. Yiqing Luo was totally clearing the route, and this route was heading straight towards Yuchi Peng. Yuchi family's guards were all beaten into a daze. All these changes happened too quickly. Originally they were the ones who made the first move, but they had not expected that they were so easily beaten up by Yiqing Luo. Looking at Yiqing Luo again, she was composed, as though she hadn't used much profound energy at all. Stop her. Don't let her get close. Yuchi family's patriarch was after all much more experienced, as he saw through Yiqing Luo's intention with one look. If she really captured Yuchi Peng under everyone's watchful eyes, then his old face would be thrown away completely. Yuchi family's elite guards' hearts instantly tightened. Surely Yiqing Luo wasn't going to repeat the same old trick, right? That time Yuchiya was ruined by this move. Following that, the other side's guards also surrounded Yiqing Luo like a beehive, surrounding Yiqing Luo in 3 layers. From what they thought, they should be able to stop her this time, right? Chapter 560. A soft murmur was heard ringing in everyone's ears like a ghost. That soft murmur was like a sigh, without any emotions. There was no ridicule nor ridicule, because every single word that Yiqing Luo said was the truth. Among the crowd, Yiqing Luo used that strange footwork as fast as lightning. Only a red glow could be seen jumping around like a fire elf. In just 2 mouthfuls of tea's time, Yiqing Luo forcefully broke through the encirclement, and under everyone's astonished gazes, her hand grabbed hold of Yuchi Peng. Not to mention the others, even Yuchi Peng himself had not regained his senses. He originally wanted to see how Yiqing Luo was surrounded. But he had not expected that this human wave tactic, in front of Yiqing Luo, was so weak that it couldn't even withstand a single blow. Finished. Finished. Yuchi family's patriarch and Yuchi Peng were both shocked. The former felt that he had lost all face, while the latter had to consider his own life. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clasped tightly onto Yuchi Peng's wrist. The other hand was holding on to that feather fan, intentionally or unintentionally placed it in between the both of them. At this distance, not to mention using weapons, even if she didn't, just based on Yiqing Luo's fingertip profound chi, it was enough to exterminate Yuchi Peng. Those elite guards felt a chill down their spines as they stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. They were totally certain. After not seeing her for a month, Yiqing Luo had become even stronger. And this degree of strength was absolutely not just 1 or 2 points. That was a kind of qualitative leap. It was simply like a yellow profound first-grade cultivator, leaping to a sky mystic overlord. 1 month ago, Yiqing Luo, under the encirclement of the 2 elite guards, relied on the 2 Mu brothers before she could complete such a shocking feat, but today, in front of thousands of guards, she used a simple and crude method to restrain Yuchi Peng. Yuchi family's patriarch was still by his side and hadn't reacted in time. It showed how powerful Yiqing Luo was. At this moment, Yuchi Peng's forehead was drenched in cold sweat as a sliver of regret arose in his heart. Perhaps he shouldn't have provoked Yiqing Luo so rashly. This consequence was much more tragic than what he had expected. Yuchi Peng wasn't an idiot, and before he came, he had gone through a series of considerations. In his opinion, the Yuchi family had called over 1,000 guards to surround the mansion. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Father directly blamed Yiqing Luo for her mistake. Wouldn't Yiqing Luo be at a loss of what to do and hurriedly explain herself? At the very least, he had to deal with the Yuchi family. In any case, their Yuchi family had a strong army, so wouldn't a little girl be scared out of her wits? However, the actual result made Yuchi Peng feel terrified, exceptionally shocked. Under the current circumstances, Yuchi Peng didn't dare to think in this way anymore. He absolutely believed that even if he were to kill him on the spot, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not bat an eyelid. At this moment, Yuchi Peng finally understood what number 4 had experienced back then. It wasn't that old 4 was too weak, And it wasn't that those elite guards didn't give it their all. It was because this woman was too strong. Her speed was so fast that she could silently tear you into pieces. Bastard, let go of our young master! How dare you attack our young master? What gall! The Yuchi patriarch was so angry that his entire body was shaking. Under the gazes of everyone, Yi Qing Luo was actually this arrogant. He gritted his teeth as he cried out angrily, "Still not going to surrender? Perhaps our Yuchi family can still spare your life." The guards beside him all started to open their mouths to berate Yi Qing Luo when they saw Patriarch opening his mouth, as though the person whom Yi Qing Luo was restraining was their father. Chapter 561. Yi Qing Luo swept a glance at the Yuchi family's guards as her lips curled slightly, revealing a sliver of ridicule. "I've seen a lot of idiots, but I've never seen anyone as stupid as you. Patriarch Yuchi, there are so many of you threatening me. What if I get scared and accidentally injure young Master Yuchi? You can't blame me for that." The moment Patriarch Yuchi heard this, his entire heart was suspended in his throat. He couldn't figure out Yi Qing Luo's route, but at least till now, everything that had happened had exceeded their expectations. If Yi Qing Luo really used some carelessness or slippery hands as an excuse to claim Yuchi Peng's life, then his Yuchi family would really become a joke. Although his eldest son's right hand was destroyed and he was already half a cripple, he was still able to control himself. But after all, he was the son that she had raised with great care. How could she not have feelings for him? Now that his son's life was in someone else's hands, Patriarch Yuchi wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking, no matter how capable he was. However, the Yuchi family's reputation could not be tarnished. The master of the Yuchi family suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to make his voice as gentle as possible. "Seventh Miss Yi, this time we are here to resolve our conflict. If you have anything to say, let go of my son first and we can sit down and talk." His words were spoken very carefully, and he put on a look of worry and helplessness for his son. At the very least, they had to make the surrounding crowd think that the Yuchi family wasn't afraid of trouble, but that they had no choice but to compromise for the sake of their son. The head of the Yuchi family was filled with rage. In his imagination, the person who should be begging for mercy should be Yi Qing Luo. However, he was surrounded by thousands of guards. The other party only sent out Yi Qing Luo alone, and he was helpless. Patriarch Yuchi had lived for most of his life, but this was the first time he had encountered something like this. Yi Qing Luo almost burst out laughing when she heard that. That pair of long and narrow eyes were extremely enchanting, but there was also a trace of mockery and scheming. Only now did she know how to speak nicely. Just now, who was the one who was so aggressive and said that she was a heinous woman with a venomous heart? It was simply too funny. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about Yuchi family's patriarch as she lifted Yuchi Peng's lapel as her lips curled into a chilly smile, staring straight at Yuchi Peng. What kind of deal did Yuchi Peng make with the dark forces? Thinking back to the massacre in the marketplace, and looking at now, Yuchi Ye and Duke Jing flatly denied the matter regarding the dark forces. How could Yi Qing Luo not understand? It was obvious that the dark forces wanted to completely seal off their appearance. This also meant that the dark forces were not strong enough to appear in front of everyone yet. They still had to hide in the dark and slowly expand their forces. Now, the news of the dark forces had already spread to the Yuchi family from Yuchi Peng's mouth. Naturally, the other aristocratic families had also heard about the dark forces devouring souls. If the underworld forces wanted to disassociate themselves from this matter, then they would have to start with Yuchi Peng. Otherwise, based on the sinister and vicious dark forces, Yuchi Peng and Duke Jing would absolutely not be able to survive till now. When Yuchi Peng heard her question, his pale face went blank as he immediately shouted out at the top of his lungs, "You're still trying to lie to me! What dark forces?" The dark forces had long made the upper realms people to expel the Nirvana realm. You're still trying to use the dark forces as an excuse to kill me. Chapter 562. Yuchi Pring was stunned, his face was livid, but he was not willing to say a single word. He would rather die than speak. This was Yuchi Peng's attitude. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Looked like if Yuchi Peng mentioned about the dark forces, he might have to bear a consequence which was even more terrifying than death. At the very least, the Yuchi family would be buried with him. The dark forces did not make a deal with Yuchi Peng but threatened him. I've never seen any dark forces, and I don't know what you're talking about. What dark forces? What soul being devoured? All of this is just an excuse for you to take revenge on the Yuchi family. You deliberately used the dark forces that had long been banished from the upper realm as an excuse to chop off my hand and destroy the Yuchi family. Yuchi Pring bit his lips tightly as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, giving a heart-wrenching howl. Those who didn't know what was going on would most likely believe it to be true. For example, the Yuchi guards who didn't know what was going on. From what they saw, Yiqing Luo was taking revenge on their eldest young master, which was simply too abominable. After all, they had only heard about the Dark Coalition from their seniors. They were the aliens that had been banished from the Nirvana realm. How could the dark forces appear again? No one believed it. Facing Yuchi Peng's attitude, Yiqing Luo instantly sneered. Good, very good. Since you insist that I want to take revenge, cut off your hand and bear this infamy for no reason, then I might as well make it true in front of everyone. I'll accept your hand. His voice had just fallen when a red light suddenly appeared and headed straight for one of Yuchi Peng's hands. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's heart was as calm as water. At first, they heard Yuchi Peng's nonsense and the Yuchi clan's overbearing attitude. Deep in her heart, she was still somewhat angry. With such a great injustice pinned on her head, no one would feel good about it. But Yiqing Luo instantly calmed down. It doesn't matter if she was wronged or if she was being scolded, since Yuchi Peng had the guts to bring people over to cause trouble, then she would have the ability to cripple him. In this way, it could be considered as getting rid of a scourge and avoiding a lot of trouble. It was just some infamy. She didn't care what the Yuchi family thought of her. Since it was like this, he might as well directly chop off Yuchi Peng's hand and let him know that people cannot be casually made up. The moment the red light erupted, the Yuchi family's patriarch reacted quickly and wanted to stop it. However, before he could even make a move, Yiqing Luo's penetrative gaze shot right over as her palm wind moved, striking out a burst of palm chi towards Patriarch Yuchi's direction. Patriarch Yuchi did not dare to be careless. This palm of chi clearly did not contain any strong chi. But just the aura that erupted in an instant was enough to shock him. If Yuchi family's patriarch avoided this palm wind, then he would lose the chance to stop Yiqing Luo from ruining his son's other hand. But if he wanted to stop Yiqing Luo, then he would have to forcefully take on this palm strike. Even if he didn't die, he would at least have a layer of skin peeled off. What Yiqing Luo wanted was this effect. Didn't the patriarch of the Yuchi family want to put on a show of compromising for his son and compromise? He was obviously afraid that the Yuchi family would lose all face, but he had to use such a lofty emotion like family to cover it up. He was simply destroying the word family. Did Patriarch Yuchi really dote on his own son? The so-called doting, was it really not mixed with any benefits? Chapter 563. Yuchi family's patriarch indeed didn't let Yiqing Luo down. Facing the incoming palm wind, Yuchi family's patriarch turned sideways and evaded it. But Yuchi family's patriarch still had to put up a front. After he evaded it sideways, he speedily flew towards Yuchi Peng's direction. But how could he make it in time? Oh no! Yuchi Peng realized this situation and his heart instantly turned into ashes. He was still hoping that his father would lend a helping hand, but now it looked like he was dead meat. If he was still the proud son of heaven, perhaps his father might not fear the danger to save him. But now, he had lost his worth. How could his father possibly hurt himself just to save him? Yuchi Peng's heart was trembling. Why did he offend this woman? Yuchi Peng looked at Yiqing Luo in despair, as he was terrified momentarily. He couldn't struggle. He could only watch as the profound qi in Yiqing Luo's hand moved directly towards his left wrist. He couldn't help but let out a miserable shriek. But at this critical moment, a burst of profound qi directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes but didn't counterattack, nor did she evade. Because this burst of profound qi, Yiqing Luo didn't sense any malicious intent, and was even vaguely familiar. But this burst of profound qi came too suddenly. If it wasn't for the fact that she had detected the source of this profound qi and intentionally diverted the profound qi's energy towards Yuchi Peng, that person who came forward to obstruct her would probably have to pay a price. Not to the extent of serious injury, but skin injuries were inevitable. Qing Luo, show some mercy. From afar, a clear voice was heard and a blue figure was approaching from afar. And behind that figure, another figure followed closely. In a blink of an eye, the two of them had already stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. Zifan, Zifei? Why are you guys here? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in astonishment as she stared at the extraordinarily handsome face in front of her. These two people were none other than the Mu family's two brothers, Mu Zifan and Mu Zifei. Ever since Yiqing Luo entered Heavenly Academy, she hadn't seen these two people. These two people seemed to be high profound class students. But in the academy, Yiqing Luo had never seen them before. The Mu brothers were burning with anxiety at this time. The news of the Yuchi family surrounding a new mercenary group with their guards had already spread throughout Three Springs City. The two brothers were arranging the medicinal herbs in the pristine elixir medicine hall when they heard the customers who came to purchase the medicinal herbs mentioned that the vice leader of the mercenary group was Yiqing Luo. When the two of them heard this, they immediately rushed over. As expected, he saw Yiqing Luo. Back then, he had collaborated with Yiqing Luo to teach Yuchi a lesson. That was because he had an honorable reason to make sure that the Yuchi family would not have any chance of revenge. But if Yiqing Luo were to make a move now and destroy Yuchi Peng's other hand, then she would really form an enmity with the Yuchi family. Mu brothers didn't deny that Yiqing Luo's ability was indeed very strong. She wasn't afraid of the Yuchi family, but that was only because she wasn't afraid of them. Yiqing Luo's current foundation wasn't stable, and if she really made a move today, destroying Yuchi Peng's left hand, not to mention chopping off Yuchi Peng's right hand, was it to prevent Yuchi Peng from being devoured by the dark forces? Even if it was, the debt of this left hand, the Yuchi family would probably not let it go. Then, the Yuchi family had no way to deal with Yiqing Luo, so they would start with the people around Yiqing Luo. The first to bear the brunt was the World Mercenary Group. Especially the youngsters in the mercenary group, some of them weren't even a match for the Yuchi family's guards. Chapter 564. Yiqing Luo, let's talk this out, there must be a misunderstanding somewhere. Mu Zifan's brows creased tightly as he suppressed his voice to persuade her. Whoever knew that before Yiqing Luo could open her mouth, Yuchi family's patriarch angrily opened his mouth. Mu family's two young masters, today's matter has nothing to do with you, please move aside. He clenched his fists tightly as his face was filled with anger. That pair of dignified and sinister eyes were burning with raging flames. Earlier from Yiqing Luo's action, how would the cunning Yuchi family's patriarch not understand her motive? This woman was simply hateful. If it wasn't for the timely appearance of the Mu brothers, his old face would have been thrown away. If he didn't tear this woman into pieces today, how would he be able to take this lying down? Yiqing Luo, you once destroyed my fourth son without any explanation. Now you want to destroy my eldest son as well. You want to destroy the entire Yuchi family? His eyes were chilly as his tone was filled with grief and interrogation. Are you trying to destroy the four great families one by one? While speaking, Yuchi family's patriarch intentionally casted a sidelong glance at the Mu brothers, as though to remind them that Yi Qing Luo had ill intentions. When this hat was pinned, Yi Qing Luo laughed out loud. No wonder he was one of the four great families' patriarch. His reaction was just so fast. Not long after, he had already thought of a reason to retaliate. In just a few words, he had pushed Yi Qing Luo to the heart of the struggle. Destroy the four great families one by one? If these words were to be spread to the other three families, no matter if Yi Qing Luo had such intentions, probably, Yi Qing Luo would be harassed by the other three families in the West Continent. They would rather kill wrongly than let her off. This was the principle of those who held high positions. Yuchi family's patriarch saw that the situation was completely under his control. Yi Qing Luo couldn't even say a single word of resistance. He gave a cold laugh as his eyes were filled with disdain. A young lady was indeed a young lady. But after making things sound so serious, she lost her gut. Now was the time for him to regain Yuchi family's face. With this thought in mind, Yuchi family's patriarch's face was filled with rage. I want to take revenge for my son. The corners of the Mu brothers' mouths twitched when they heard this. They were extremely speechless towards the patriarch of the Yuchi family. Don't talk about avenging your fourth young master. This eldest young master was still in Yi Qing Luo's hands. Revenge? I'll have to pay with another life? Although the Mu brothers were filled with disdain towards the Yuchi patriarch, it was clear that it was not appropriate for them to continue arguing in this manner given the current situation. Mu Zifan's lips curled into a warm smile. He slightly waved the folding fan in his hand and took a step forward. Patriarch Yuchi, Qing Luo and I are considered as close friends, and based on my understanding, she would not do such a despicable thing. His voice was light and slow, yet it carried an irresistible dignity. There must be a misunderstanding here. However, today's situation is not suitable for us to sit down and discuss in detail. Why don't we both take a step back and resolve this misunderstanding another day? What do you think, Patriarch Yuchi? The Yuchi patriarch's expression changed. He was the patriarch of the Yuchi family. Just because of a junior's words, he was going to shrink back? Whereas Yi Qing Luo had no intention to compromise. Her lips curled into a cold arc with a smile which didn't look like a smile. That feather fan on her fingertips seemed as though it could slice Yuchi Peng's neck anytime. Chapter 565. Mu Zifan's lips curled upwards as he maintained his elegant smile. But that pair of clear eyes shot out a piercingly cold glint. Just one look at it made one's scalp go numb. Mu Zifan coldly reminded, Yuchi family's patriarch, you can choose not to give me, Mu Zifan face, but based on my Alchemist Guild's future chief identity, how about I guarantee this matter? Following that, he fished out a palm-sized golden token from his waist. Wasn't this the Alchemist Guild's young chief's token? The surrounding guards immediately went into an uproar as they subconsciously took a step back. Alchemist Guild? That was the target which all the large families and powerhouses wanted to curry favor with. Yuchi family's patriarch naturally knew Mu Zifan's identity. But he had not expected that Mu Zifan would use the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help Yi Qing Luo time and time again. Could it be that this Mu Zifan towards Yi Qing Luo? Yuchi family's patriarch restrained the deep thoughts in his eyes as his brows creased tightly. Yi Qing Luo gazed at Mu Zifan's back as her heart suddenly felt warm. This was the second time he had used the Alchemist Guild's young chief's identity to help her out of trouble. Yi Qing Luo knew that Mu Zifan wasn't the kind of person who liked to bully others. She understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. If she destroyed Yuchi Peng, she and Yuchi family would completely become enemies. And those people who wanted to curry favor with Yuchi family would also form groups to deal with her. Even if they killed her, they would have a dignified reason. Letting Yuchi Peng off wasn't impossible. Seeing Yuchi Peng in this way, he would definitely insist on not saying anything about the dark forces. But If she let him off just like that, then Yuchi Peng wouldn't be able to live past today. Of course, all these depended on Yuchi family's patriarch's attitude. Yuchi family's patriarch cared about his face, but she insisted on Yuchi family's patriarch to give her a way out first. If Yuchi family's patriarch insisted on making a fuss, then she naturally wouldn't have the patience to continue to tangle with Yuchi family's patriarch. She might as well kidnap Yuchi Peng back to the World Group and interrogate him properly about his relationship with the dark forces. Yiqing Luo had never been a kind person, and there was no need for her to do anything just to gain a kind reputation. Moreover, even if she let Yiqing Luo off, she might continue to be reviled. Patriarch Yuchi narrowed his eyes and stared at Mu Zifan for a long time. He could clearly see the coldness in Mu Zifan's eyes. Mu Zifan didn't seem to be joking. Patriarch Yuchi had no choice but to consider the pros and cons involved. After some careful consideration, he finally compromised. "All right, we'll talk about this later for the sake of the young Alliance Master." After Patriarch Yuchi finished his words, he immediately shot a meaningful look towards Yiqing Luo. Now that he had loosened his mouth, if Yiqing Luo still insisted on not letting go, then it would be a slap on Mu Zifan's face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, looking extremely enchanting, but her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. How boring! Her palm slowly loosened its grip on Yuchi Peng. Her pink lips moved slightly, and at the instant when her feather fan moved away, she laughed softly. "Yuchi Peng, do you think that after you leave this place, you will be able to live past today?" Saying that, she used both her hands to push Yuchi Peng towards Patriarch Yuchi. Several guards immediately went up and supported him. But Yuchi Peng's eyes opened wide as he stared blankly in front, his face filled with terror and astonishment. Who wasn't afraid of death? No one wasn't afraid of death. If he was afraid of death, then he wouldn't have begged Yiqing Luo to save him in the first place. Yuchi Peng understood Yiqing Luo's meaning. If he wanted to survive, then he must choose to stay. Only by staying with Yiqing Luo would he be able to obtain the guarantee of safety. But Chapter 566. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she squinted at Yuchi Peng with interest, but didn't say anything else. It was unknown what the dark forces had threatened Yuchi Peng with, to actually make him not even care about his life. Was he using the entire Yuchi family to threaten him? But since this was Yuchi Peng's choice, she would not force it. Yiqing Luo retreated back to Dmo Xian's side as her little hand hooked onto his arm. This was an unconscious action on her part. Dmo Xian glanced sideways as he stared at the cold and stunning side profile of the woman beside him, as his eyes overflowed with a doting smile. When the crowd saw this scene, they all had different thoughts. The youths of the mercenary group covered their eyes and face-bombed. These two people really didn't let go of any opportunity to show off. "I owe this dog food," whereas for the Mu brothers, their eyes revealed an astonished look as they exchanged glances, as though they were guessing the relationship between Yiqing Luo and that man. Mu Zifei tugged at his brother's sleeves and said in a low voice, "Big brother, I told you to make your move earlier, but you didn't listen. Look at you now." Mu Zifan cast a sidelong glance at Dmo Xian and slapped the back of his hand away. His expression was still gentle, but his tone was impatient. "Don't talk nonsense." Looking at Duke Jing, who was standing beside Yuchi Peng, he didn't conceal the jealousy and hatred in his eyes as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. If it wasn't for the fact that Yuchi family's patriarch didn't dare to go against Yiqing Luo, he absolutely would have rushed up right now, pulling that adulterous couple apart. He had obviously taken a fancy to this woman. Now, she actually dared to pull on another man. Moreover, that man's appearance was way too ordinary. Yiqing Luo standing beside that man was simply like a fresh flower inserted into cow dung. Duke Jing opened his mouth and clenched his fists in hatred. The jealousy and hatred in his eyes were unstoppable. This gaze naturally attracted Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's attention. Dmo Xian's lips curled upwards as his eyes shimmered. He intentionally lowered his head and moved closer to Yiqing Luo's ear as he laughed lightly. How do you feel? Evil heart. Every word came out from Yiqing Luo's pink lips. She pursed her lips and turned her face away with a look of disgust. What are you waiting for? Go. Patriarch Yuchi's heart was filled with unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do as he clenched his teeth tightly and spoke to Yiqing Luo in an evil tone. 7th Miss Yi, this patriarch will visit another day. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. That laughter was ethereal and pleasing to the ears. However, in the ears of the Yuchi patriarch, it sounded like a demon mocking his incompetence. Patriarch Yuchi's complexion was stiff. He glanced at Mu Zifan, who was standing at the side, and clenched his teeth. Still, he turned around and left. Originally, under Yuchi Peng's fanfare, he had mobilized a large number of people to look for Yiqing Luo, wanting to take her life to wash away the Yuchi family's black mark. In the end, he was sent away just like that. In the eyes of the onlookers, the Yuchi family's departure seemed dejected. Looking at the 1,000 guards team, one after another, leaving the vicinity of the huge mansion, the frost on Yiqing Luo's face slowly dissipated. The corners of his mouth also revealed a trace of a sincere smile. Zifan, Zifei, thank you for helping me out. The two Mu brothers shook their heads. This wasn't considered as helping Yiqing Luo out of her predicament. They knew Yiqing Luo's character. If she really wanted to form a feud with the Yuchi family would definitely fall into turmoil. Other than giving Patriarch Yuchi a way out, they were also thinking for their own family's sake. Once the Yuchi family was in turmoil. Chapter 567. Don't stand at the entrance, come in first. Yiqing Luo took a step back, indicating for them to enter the mansion. There were too many commoners crowding around and standing at the entrance. It was as though they were being watched by a monkey show. The World Group's youngsters retreated to the two sides, revealing a path. The Mu brothers didn't act pretentiously as the two of them entered the mansion one after another. The mansion's main door had just closed when Mu Zifan sighed softly. Qing Luo, I know you're not a rash person, and I know you're a sentimental person. Today's matter, although I'm not sure what exactly happened, but you shouldn't have clashed with the Yuchi family. Mu Zifan and Yiqing Luo had interacted for a few days, and towards Yiqing Luo's character, he more or less had some understanding. He naturally believed that Yiqing Luo wouldn't make a move on the Yuchi family for no reason. But today's timing wasn't right. You're not afraid of the Yuchi family, but you should more or less consider for the people around you. Mu Zifan's peripheral vision shot a glance at those 10 over youngsters who were following behind. These young faces looked extremely unfamiliar. Apparently they were youngsters who were inexperienced. They saw it very clearly. Earlier when they rushed over, they saw these youngsters standing behind Yiqing Luo. Facing thousands of experienced guards, they were clearly afraid, but the look in their eyes remained firm and determined. None of them retreated because of fear. All of them stood behind Yiqing Luo, becoming her strongest fortress. These people were sincerely comrades with Yiqing Luo. Because of this, Mu Zifan was willing to raise this suggestion to Yiqing Luo. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she went into a slight daze. Her gaze subconsciously fell onto those brothers behind her. She finally understood the reason why Mu Zifan stopped her. Once upon a time, she was alone. No matter where she went, no matter what dangerous mission she took, she was forever alone. She had also developed the habit of doing things alone. Now with these brothers and sisters. From the moment she placed these people in her heart, she had always remembered that she wasn't alone, but a team. Her every action, every word and action, could possibly affect the entire team. If she really chopped off Yuchi Peng's other hand earlier, these youngsters around her would definitely be targeted by the Yuchi family. Thank you for your advice. Luckily you stopped me. Yiqing Luo's smile bloomed like a flower. The Mu brothers chuckled and said, If you want to thank us, You can treat us to a meal in the canteen after the academy reopens. No problem. Yiqing Luo nodded without hesitation. Turning around, he changed the topic. Oh right, about Yuchi Peng. Follow me to the hall. They talked as they walked, and along the way, the other brothers also dispersed. Too many things had happened today. When they thought of the even more serious mission that awaited them tomorrow, the youths naturally chose to suppress the excitement in their hearts and return to their rooms to rest. The huge mansion suddenly became much quieter. In the lobby, after everyone was seated, Yiqing Luo didn't hold back at all as she told them about how Yuchi Peng and Duke Jing had fallen into the Dark Forces trap, and how they had signed the soul contract with the Dark Forces, almost being swallowed up. The Mu brothers looked at each other. Mu Zifei revealed an astonished expression. This is actually true? Dark Forces, the beast that was expelled by the Nirvana realm, had actually returned? There must be a reason why the Dark Forces would hide in the dark. Yiqing Luo's expression was grave as she looked at them. The Dark Forces kept on using powerful energy to lure the cultivators to sign the contract with them, and subsequently swallowing the other party's soul. This action is too abnormal. Chapter 568. Indeed, this wasn't normal. Dark Forces. This force had already disappeared for several decades. All along, they were the forces which were expelled by Nirvana realm. He had only occasionally heard about this dark power from the mouth of the previous generation. Today, the Dark Forces had appeared once again, and in such a manner. Could it be? Were they preparing to make a comeback? You must be careful of the Dark Forces. That profound Yin energy is indeed powerful, but it ultimately isn't yours. If you lose yourself for a short-term benefit, then you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she kept away the deep thoughts in her eyes as she opened her mouth to remind them. The hearts of the Mu brothers were filled with shock at this moment. Dark Forces could make use of this energy to swallow a cultivator's soul. How many cultivators would be hooked? It was simply an unknown number. After all, which cultivator didn't thirst for power? Even they, too, thirsted for power. They couldn't help but feel deeply moved that this Yiqing Luo was still young, but her comprehension was not what most people could achieve. They had to investigate on what motive this dark force which was hiding in the dark had. Moreover, such a matter had happened in the world group today, so they should have something to say within the group. Mu brothers then got up and bade farewell. By the time they sent the Mu brothers out of the mansion, everyone's expressions in the main hall instantly turned grave. Yiqing Luo returned to the chair and sat down as her eyes were deep. From the current situation, Yuchi family will not find any trouble today. But in future, they will definitely not let this matter rest. Everyone nodded. Before Yuchi family's patriarch left, he left behind that sentence. Apparently, he had already bore a grudge against Yiqing Luo. What we need to do is to raise the group's ability. Long Yunzhan, who had always been silent, opened his mouth calmly as his azure blue eyes looked at Yiqing Luo quietly. Qiao Jin agreed. We're not afraid of Yuchi family, but the others. That might not be the case. Although the World Group's youngsters were in Devil class and had gone through their training, their profound grade and skills overall standard was considered to be extremely high. But they lacked experience. They lacked actual combat experience. Just like Bei Ming Lianqing, why was he able to advance to profound grade in the process of climbing the iron wire? That was because when he was close to death, his mental state had some comprehension, hence he was able to advance. Just as what Yiqing Luo had said, the only way to become stronger was through continuous battles. Based on the situation of the past 2 days, these youths were still too inexperienced. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's arrival, reminding them, they would probably still lock these students in Devil class for secret training. Long Yunzhan and Qiao Jin exchanged glances. Suddenly, there was a lofty sentiment that spread out in their hearts. Perhaps They might even have the confidence to emerge as the champion of the interclass tournament 8 months later. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she muttered to herself for a moment. It was easy to increase one's profound rank and strength. They had been doing this all along. However, raising one's strength was not something that could be done in a day. Some experts were often stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance for years or even decades. Not to mention these youths who had yet to completely open their hearts. Tomorrow was the last day of the holiday. It seemed that she had to lead these people to the magical beast forest. The magical beast forest was a place where magical beasts roamed freely. The last time she followed Diemo, she reached the 6th level. This time her goal was the 5th level. The 5th level, it wasn't just magical beasts. Chapter 569. Why don't everyone rest early to conserve your energy? Tomorrow morning, Group Leader will go to the mercenary group to take on 10 high-leveled missions related to the Magic Beast Forest. What do you think? Magic Beast Forest? That place. These youngsters had never been to that place before. But Yiqing Luo's suggestion, Long Yunzhan didn't say anything, so the others naturally had no objections. Unknowingly, Yiqing Luo had already unknowingly become their center. Long Yunzhan's eyes flashed slightly as his eyes revealed a glint of admiration. This was indeed a good way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could it help the world group gain more honor points, it could also improve their own training. But whether they could complete the mission would depend on everyone's ability. Subconsciously, Long Yunzhan looked towards Diemo, who was seated beside Yiqing Luo, wanting to see what opinions he had. But he saw Diemo-Xian's pair of narrow peach blossom eyes, from the start till the end, had never left Yiqing Luo's side profile. His eyes were filled with gentleness, a gentleness which belonged to Yiqing Luo alone. His slender fingers held a cup of tea as he leisurely drank the tea. He wasn't worried at all, as though he was extremely assured towards Yiqing Luo, and believed in all the suggestions which Yiqing Luo raised. The questions which Long Yunzhan wanted to ask eventually stopped in his mouth. These 2 days, Diemo-Xian's attitude towards Yiqing Luo was the clearest to them. Diemo-Xian would never easily obstruct Yiqing Luo's growth and improvement. This kind of free love was enough to prove Diemo-Xian's sincerity towards Yiqing Luo. In his mind, Qiao Jin's words suddenly rang, "Ah Zhan, we have a good brother, a very good brother." Long Yunzhan's hand suddenly clenched tightly. The next morning, the group of them were all ready to set off. The youngsters in the world group were exceptionally excited. This was the last day of their holiday, and it was also their first time going on a large-scale mission as a group. Magic Beast Forest. That place which numerous mercenary groups wanted to go on experience training, this was their first time going, so their hearts were filled with anticipation. Magic Beast Forest. Other than mercenary groups going on missions, there were many academies classes, large families, young masters and young ladies, etc., who went on various experience training here. Magic Beast Forest's high-leveled missions. Once it's completed, there will be a total of 80 mercenary group credit points, and there will be other medicinal herbs as reward. Long Yunzhan arranged the mission scroll which he had just received as he spoke. 10 high-level missions for only 80 mercenary group honor points? Thinking about it, a high-level rare mission actually rewarded 150 honor points. As expected, that mission had been categorized incorrectly. Speaking of the reward, Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked at Long Yunzhan. "Yesterday I handed in that high-grade rare mission's reward. I need 2 medicinal herbs." Back then, what attracted her the most was the 2 medicinal herbs. Long Yunzhan took out all the rewards from the metal space and placed them on the table. The sound of 500 gold coins clattering against each other was crisp and clear. The eyes of the youths were about to pop out. Profound ice, immortal root, infant grass. I only want these 2 ingredients. Yiqing Luo took the 2 herbs over. The mercenary group's development cannot be without the support of money. Now all the money earned from the missions, temporarily store it, it is very important for the future development. These 2 herbs. Biming Lulu narrowed her eyes as she fiddled with the profound ice immortal root and sniffed it. Isn't this medicine used to treat bone injuries? When the youngsters heard that, they immediately looked towards Yiqing Luo. Chapter 570. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Not me. Biming Lulu picked up another medicinal herb with a bit of confusion in her eyes. These 2 herbs were both medicinal herbs used to treat bone injuries. However, could these 2 medicinal ingredients be used together to refine an elixir? What kind of medicinal pill was being refined? There didn't seem to be such a prescription in his memory. When the refinement is successful, I will write down the prescription for you. Yiqing Luo saw that Biming Lulu was attracted by the medicinal herbs and knew that she was an alchemy fanatic. When she saw the medicinal herbs and herself not knowing how to refine pills, her interest was piqued. Qiao Jin clapped his hands, indicating for everyone to look at him. All right, everyone, do your best. After completing the mission, the leader will treat you all to a good meal. Tomorrow, you will have to return to the academy. The youths cheered. Ha ha, let's go. Let's go. I heard that the training in the magical beast forest is a real training. Of course, that is the realm of actual combat. Why don't we have a competition to see who can hunt more magical beasts and complete more missions? Looking at the youngsters' noisy looks, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with warmth. She really liked this feeling. Everyone was full of vigor and hope for the future. She had to work harder to improve her profound rank and become stronger. At the very least, as the vice-captain of these youths, she should protect them well. She smiled. The man behind her also stared at her and smiled. The group of people left the mansion in a mighty manner. Every youth's heart was filled with curiosity and anticipation towards the unknown. However, the group of people did not notice that after they left the mansion, a sneaky figure hiding in the dark was quietly watching them. After sending off the world group with his eyes, that figure muttered softly, "Magical beast forest." Then, he quickly left in the opposite direction of those youths. Shortly after, an old man in a new white robe walked out of the mansion. He stroked his beard, looked at the sneaky figure meaningfully, and shook his head with a smile. It was better to leave the matters of the young to the young. Thus, he did not lend a helping hand. What's more, the little girl didn't seem to need his help. Since he was picked up by the little girl, he would guard this mansion for the little girl. With this thought in mind, the old man leisurely strolled back into the mansion. The youngsters of the world group stopped at the entrance of the magic beast forest. The breeze was chilly, and the ground was covered with withered leaves that had sunk into the soil. There were also countless footprints of horses, magical beasts, and humans. There was a fishy smell in the humid air. As far as the eye could see, apart from the lush forest and trees, there was more lush forest and trees. Dense branches and leaves grew all over the place. Only a faint ray of light could be seen. Just the outer perimeter alone gave off a dangerous aura. The youth's legs were trembling from excitement and excitement. While they were standing at the entrance, there were also neat teams that walked past them. There were 30-man teams, 50-man teams, and 100-man teams among them. He looked majestic and handsome. The youths stared at those teams in a daze. The blood in their hearts was boiling. Exciting! It was too exciting. From now on, they had also become a part of such a handsome team. Are you guys ready? Yiqing Luo's cold voice was filled with an irresistible charm. The youngsters immediately puffed out their chests, as their voices were loud and clear. Ready! Chapter 571. 5th level? The youngsters' hearts suddenly jolted. They thought that they would at most be messing around in the 3rd level. Only then did they realize that the missions that their guild leader had accepted were all missions at the 5th level. They should be laughing and saying that their group leader had thought too highly of them. Or should they be crying and howling that their group leader wanted their lives? However, the mission which their group leader had taken on, Their vice group leader was the accomplice, so even if they had to kneel down, they had to complete the mission. Under the leadership of the few of them, the youngsters took their first step forward without any hesitation. They started from the first level and moved upward. Along the way, Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the front, and when they saw magical beasts, they would give way without any intention to make a move. Whereas for those youngsters behind them, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi, according to their abilities, were split into 10 overgroups of 5 to carry out hunting of the magical beast. Whereas Shi Ju and Little Nine followed behind, picking up the magic cores. First and second level magical beasts, their levels were rather low and their magic cores were few and far between. Just like this, the group of them directly killed their way to the 4th level. The youngsters at this moment were all stained with blood. Some of them, but most of them were the bloodstains of the magical beast. And the more they fought, the more courageous they became. From the initial apprehension, to the later part where it was smooth sailing. The 5-man team's coordination became more and more tacit. From the initial frantic killing of magical beasts, to the instantaneous killing of a magical beast. At this moment they had also deeply understood what Yiqing Luo had said. Only through battle was the only way to become stronger. 4th-level magical beasts were all intermediate-level magical beasts, with some high-leveled magical beasts mixed in. As compared to the 3rd level and below, their abilities had increased by more than 1-fold. The youngsters' battle speed, because of the magical beasts becoming stronger, became slower and slower. Group leader, quickly look. There's another group of mercenary group in front. Suddenly, a loud and clear man's voice was heard from not too far away. Yiqing Luo, Long Yunzhan and the rest stood by the side, carefully observing every youngster's actions, occasionally opening their mouths to give some pointers. Suddenly hearing a stranger's voice, Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a mercenary group popping out from the forest. They were dressed in a blue-colored mercenary group uniform, and the mercenary group badge on their chest indicated that they were a bronze plate mercenary group. Looking at it, it should be a 100-men group. Appearing at the 4th level, and on the same path as them, it should be a high-level mission team heading towards the 5th line. As soon as the man finished speaking, a man with a long blade in his hand crossed the forest. The man's facial features were decent, and his attire was slightly different from the other members. A majestic azure dragon totem was embroidered at the bottom of the man's clothes. From the looks of it, this man's position in this mercenary group was quite high. Guild leader, these people seemed to be heading towards the 5th level as well. When that man heard that, his brows creased slightly as he squinted his eyes and impolitely sized up Yiqing Luo and the others. His gaze swept across the youths who were fighting, and then swept across the 7 people who were chatting leisurely at the side. His eyes were filled with disdain. They are just a bunch of trash who overestimate themselves. There is no need to take them to heart. After saying that, the man who was addressed as the leader snorted and turned around to return to his team. Hearing their leader say this, the other members were relieved. A useless mercenary group could not affect them at all. Since they wouldn't snatch the quest items from them, then they didn't care. Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as her lips curled upwards in ridicule. There were really a lot of arrogant people. Chapter 572. Yiqing Luo didn't put her attention on that mercenary group but swept a glance at the surrounding youngsters who had placed their attention on this side as she spoke out coldly. Concentrate when you're in battle. Those youngsters immediately retracted their gazes as they continued to kill the magical beasts in front of them. Hearing the lady's clear voice, that blue-robed group leader's footsteps halted. A pair of squinted eyes filled with disdain stared at Yiqing Luo. That imposing manner made even him subconsciously want to straighten his back and listen to orders. What was going on? Noticing the blue-robed group leader's gaze, Yan Xiaoyi's spirited eyes flashed as her eyes revealed a sliver of ridicule. Yo, that trashy mercenary group in front, do you think that just because you're wearing a blue dragon embroidered uniform, you really think that you're a dragon among men? From what we see, you're at most maggots. In Devil class, they had endured being labeled as a trashy class, unable to retaliate. Now that they were outside, they didn't bear the name of Devil class. On what basis did they have to swallow their anger? After all, in the eyes of outsiders, they were people who came out from the imperial palace. Maggots? Saying maggots is an insult to maggot. Xiao Jin's brows rose as his ordinary face was filled with ridicule. When the other youngsters who were killing magical beasts heard that, they immediately burst out laughing. These two people were just too sarcastic. A perfectly fine dragon was said to be worse than maggot. The blue-robed group leader's face turned as black as charcoal. You bunch of trash. We are the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. How dare you insult us? One of the members behind the blue-robed group leader's face flushed red as he pointed at Xiao Jin and bellowed in rage. What maggots! They were obviously the mighty and domineering Blue Dragon. Yan Xiao Yi gave out an exaggerated laugh and immediately covered her mouth as a pair of bright and beautiful eyes concealed a smile. So the so-called Blue Dragon Mercenary Group is just a bunch of maggots like you. I thought this mercenary group was very powerful, but I didn't expect it to be just so-so. After they had established their mercenary group, they had more or less paid attention to the other mercenary group. And this Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, according to their understanding, was a large-scale bronze plate mercenary group with 900 over people. Perhaps they had more members, but because they hadn't accumulated enough honor points, they were unable to advance to Silver Plate Mercenary Group, hence, there was a maximum number of members. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's backing seemed to be some other continent's families group. Because of this, he had a bit of a reputation in the mercenary guild. He didn't expect it to be such a brainless team. Yan Xiaoyi's words completely infuriated the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members. Each of them glared at them with a ferocious gaze like that of a wild beast. Not too long later, 100 people surrounded Yi Qing Luo and the others in the center. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's group leader Ji Tsongtian wiped the blood off his long sword as his lips curled into a cold smile as he looked at them in disdain. His eyes were filled with rage. However, he still pretended to be magnanimous. Small teams, don't be too arrogant. It wasn't easy for me to reach the 4th level. If I were to provoke someone I shouldn't provoke, it wouldn't be worth it. His words were filled with threat. Yan Xiaoyi's smile was even more exaggerated, and just as she was about to open her mouth, she was stopped by Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 573. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members were choked till they couldn't rebuke her. Just as the situation was extremely strange, they heard rustling sounds coming from the other end of the forest. Brother Tsong Tian. Accompanied by a crisp sound, a middle-grade wolf beast slowly walked over. On the wolf beast's back sat a young lady dressed in a pink silk floor-length dress. She had a youthful and beautiful hair tied up as her footwear jingled. Looking at the young lady's dressing, Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. Did this fellow come to the Magic Beast Forest for sightseeing or for experience learning? Riding on a magic beast and dressed so heavily, if they met with danger, this set of equipment, would it affect their escape? Young lady's words are wrong. The young lady's slender eyebrows rose as her tone was arrogant. Brother Tsong Tian isn't bullying your new mercenary group. But seeing your mercenary group being so disharmonious, he stood on the old mercenary group's standpoint and gave some guidance. While the young lady was speaking, she casted a disdainful glance at Yi Qing Luo. It wasn't hard to tell that after she saw Yi Qing Luo, her eyes were filled with jealousy. The minute the young lady spoke, Ji Tsongtian's face immediately rose into a smile as he nodded his head. Sister Noa is right, this group leader is guiding them. That flattering smile on his face didn't attract the young lady Lan Ling Nua's attention at all. Lan Ling Nua's pair of watery eyes stared arrogantly at Yi Qing Luo. She had always been extremely confident towards her own looks. In this West continent, the most famous beauty was Three Springs City's #1 beauty, Yi family's eldest young Miss Yi Qingqian. She had seen her before and she wasn't as beautiful as her. She had not expected. But today she met someone much more beautiful than Yi Qingqian, than her. Lan Lingnua's eyes were filled with thick jealousy and unwillingness. Her slender hands under her sleeves clenched into fists. She tried her best to control her tone as she used a gentle tone. The few of you should be your mercenary group's bosses, right? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she naturally saw the young lady's hostility towards her, as she felt that it was funny. Lan Lingnua continued, as the core members of the team members are doing their best to kill the demonic beasts, but you guys are leisurely chatting and having fun at the side. Your team leader has bosses like you guys, it's really... With that, she didn't continue speaking. She only sneered disdainfully. She didn't need to say anything. Ji Tsong Tian instantly laughed out loudly. That's right, that's right. Look at me. I'm fighting with my teammates, killing magical beasts with my brothers. That's what a team is. Immediately after, he looked at Lan Lingnua. His flattering manner was like a puppy that had gotten a bone. Sister Nua, tell me, am I right? Lan Lingnua's gaze finally shifted towards him. She then flashed a smile and nodded vigorously. Brother Tsangtian is right. Are they a pair of idiots? The two of them were a perfect match. Arrogant and conceited, he wouldn't even know how he died one day. Lan Lingnua's words infuriated the surrounding youths who were killing magical beasts. One of the small team had just finished off the magical beasts in their hands as they raised their weapons and rushed up, pointing at Lan Lingnua as they shouted angrily, "Who said the team leader is leisurely? What's called a team? You don't know anything at all. On what basis are you slandering our team leader?" When one of them opened his mouth, the other small teams couldn't help but roared out. These youngsters were still young and had not experienced the affairs of the world. These people could slander them, but slandering the person whom they revered was even more unacceptable than killing them. Enough. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotions. Chapter 574. Vice Commander. Those youngsters retracted their arrogance under Yi Qing Luo's aura. He silently returned to Yi Qing Luo's back. Ha ha! Look at that bunch of trash, they are indeed trash. A member of the Blue Dragon mercenary group let out a mocking laugh. That's right. Do you think that you're an expert just because you've reached the 4th level? You still want to go against our Blue Dragon mercenary group? Is a small mercenary group qualified? I really don't know what these pieces of trash are doing here. They are as timid as mice. The sounds of ridicule caused the rage that the youths had suppressed with great difficulty to surge up again. This was especially so for Qiao Jin. He held the coin dart in his hand tightly, and was about to throw it at those people who were mocking him. But he was stopped by Yi Qing Luo. Forget it, we are only at the 4th level. The 5th level magical beasts are more dangerous, don't waste your energy because of these rubbish. The youths were startled, and the anger on their faces dissipated. That's right, their purpose in coming to the magical beast forest was to train and complete the mission. It was not worth it for them to waste their energy on the Blue Dragon mercenary group before they even reached the 5th level. The so-called forbearance was not a sign of weakness. It was because they knew how to judge the situation and make the best choice for themselves. Yi Qing Luo's voice wasn't loud, nor was it soft. Blue Dragon mercenary group naturally heard it clearly. Trash? How dare she call them trash? Ji Tsongtian's eyes widened in anger as his disgust towards Yi Qing Luo deepened. However, Yi Qing Luo really brought those youngsters along, as though she totally disregarded them as she walked straight ahead. The youths passed by them one by one. Ji Tsongtian felt a burning pain on his face, as though his pride had been stepped into the mud by the other party. Instantly, a strand of profound energy burst out of his body. He brandished the long sword in his hand, chopping towards Yi Qing Luo. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her heart suddenly felt warm. He then saw Ji Tsongtian's profound heart jade, which was flickering with orange light. Looking at the star pattern under his feet, it showed his profound rank, Earth Profound Rank 2. Looking at Ji Tsongtian's age, he was at most 25 or 26. He had already reached the second level of the Earth Profound realm. It was no wonder that he was so arrogant. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself irresolutely. It seemed that she had to raise her profound rank as soon as possible, otherwise she wouldn't be able to catch up with the others. Just relying on his footwork and teleportation was not a long-term solution. When Ji Tsongtian's long saber slashed down, a loud dong was heard as a gold coin dart flew past, hitting the long saber. The strong force forced Ji Tsongtian's long blade to deviate as his arm was so numb that he almost dropped his long blade onto the ground. The moment he made his move, the members of the Blue Dragon mercenary group were not going to let him off. With a shout, he charged forward. The World Group's youngsters naturally wouldn't allow them to bully them as they raised their weapons to block their attacks. For a moment, the entire fourth line became chaotic. The two teams were entangled together. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she and Dmo Xian moved closer to the fifth level. Yiqing Luo transmitted her voice through the mercenary group badge. All brothers move closer to the fifth level, shake them off. If these people really got involved, it would definitely be a huge problem. It was the last day of holiday, and Yiqing Luo didn't want to waste any more time. Unexpectedly, Lan Ling Nua, who was riding on the wolf beast, also commanded the wolf beast to move towards this direction at the same time. Lan Ling Nua felt that in the chaotic battle, she would inevitably be hurt. She dressed up so exquisitely today, in order to raise the Blue Dragon mercenary group's looks, not intending to make a move. On seeing Yiqing Luo and a man hiding in this direction, Lan Ling Nua naturally followed along. Chapter 575. Lan Ling Nua shrieked in terror. The pain from the fall was a small matter, but if she were to ruin her meticulously dressed up, then the loss would outweigh the gain. But the pain that she imagined didn't come. Her body fell into a warm embrace. That embrace was incomparably wide, and through the thin clothes, she seemed to be able to feel the warmth from the person behind her. A sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Lan Ling Nua subconsciously opened her eyes and looked at the person behind her. This glance met with a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes, as though it was a whirlpool, sucking her soul into it completely. The face that entered her eyes was so ordinary and ordinary. But unfortunately, that pair of peach blossom eyes added a unique charm to that ordinary face. Lan Ling Nua's heart suddenly started to beat rapidly. Her eyes were filled with shyness as she put on a smile which she thought was the most beautiful as both her hands wrapped around his neck, speaking in a sweet voice, "Little brother, thank." Lan Ling Nua had just opened her mouth when her body suddenly turned light as she fell onto the ground. "You!" Lan Ling Nua stared at Dmo Xian in disbelief, totally unable to believe that there would actually be a man who rejected her. He had obviously caught her. Wasn't it to be a hero saving a damsel in distress? He actually pushed her away. Lan Ling Nua's eyes were filled with astonishment as she could clearly feel that Dmo Xian had let go of her without any hesitation. Following that, he was expressionless as he watched her fall onto the ground with an apathetic gaze. Following that, as though he was infected with germs, he pulled out a handkerchief and wiped his hands. Dmo Xian was moving swiftly, and the minute he let go, due to inertia, Lan Ling Nua fell onto the ground and was blown by the strong gale as she tumbled. The surrounding was lush and the ground was filled with branches mixed with soil. This tumble caused Lan Ling Nua's pink soft silk clothes to be ripped open, and finally, with a tearing sound, her sleeves were ripped off from her shoulders and her pink underwear could be seen indistinctly. Her meticulously bundled hair was hooked onto the branches and strands of hair were ripped off as her scalp started to hurt. "Sister Nua!" Ji Tsongtian's heart shuddered fiercely as he hurriedly ran up and carried the disheveled Lan Ling Nua into his arms. When he looked down, he could see the beautiful figure of a woman under the white arm that was exposed after Lan Ling Nua was torn apart. Ji Tsongtian's throat moved as he forcefully swallowed a mouthful of saliva and removed his outer robe, draping it over Lan Ling Nua. Bitch! B***tch. Lan Ling Nua was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Her battered face was contorted to the extreme. Ji Tsongtian had never seen her in this state, and he was momentarily stunned as the hand which was wrapping her clothes froze. Lan Ling Nua realized that she had lost her composure and forcefully suppressed the anger and fury in her heart. She pinched herself hard with the hand that was wrapped under the robe. At that moment, Lan Ling Nua's beautiful eyes oozed out a drop of blood. Instantly, the beauty's tears rolled down her cheeks. Brother Tsongtian! Brother Tsongtian! Those choking sounds of sobbing made Ji Tsongtian's heart hurt. Lan Ling Nua cried and cried as she pounced into Ji Tsongtian's arms, calling out in an extremely aggrieved manner. She didn't say a single word as she kept calling out Ji Tsongtian's name. Ji Tsongtian's body tensed up as his hands slowly landed on Lan Ling Nua's petite body after some time. This was the woman whom he loved, the woman whom he had chased for a long time but had not managed to get his hands on. Now that she had pounced into his arms, how could he not be agitated? But the woman whom he loved was crying so sadly. Thinking of that mercenary group which made Lan Ling Nua cry, a layer of ice surfaced on Ji Tsongtian's face. Chapter 576. Yi Qing Luo didn't know that she was hated by the Blue Dragon mercenary group. Even if she knew, it didn't matter to her. In her eyes, that kind of conceited group wasn't worth her effort. Yi Qing Luo led the world group as she stepped into the 5th level. The minute they entered the 5th level region, the surrounding atmosphere apparently turned heavy. The air seemed to be filled with a damp blood stench. Those youngsters who were originally talking about that mercenary group earlier and talking about that arrogant mercenary group slowly stopped talking under this strange atmosphere. One by one, the youngsters subconsciously puffed out their chests as they vigilantly released their senses. Danger. Everything here was giving off a dangerous vibe. It was different from the relaxed feeling of the 4th level and below. Everywhere here was filled with a sense of oppression. Even their breathing seemed to be cautious. Remember your motive for coming here. Yi Qing Luo suppressed her voice as her vision swept past all the youngsters. For those unimportant people or before the mission is completed, don't bother about them. After the mission is completed, I won't stop you however you want to play with them. Towards the Blue Dragon mercenary group, if the world group's youngsters really wanted to make a move, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't stop them because she was afraid of trouble. What's more, she hoped that the world group's youngsters would have a battle with the Blue Dragon mercenary group. However, he had to prioritize his priorities before doing anything. If for Blue Dragon mercenary group, they had to sacrifice the world group's youngsters' energy, causing them to be unable to complete the 10 high-leveled missions, then it wasn't worth it. The world mercenary group itself didn't have the advantage in terms of numbers. If they were to sacrifice their manpower here, there was totally no need. The youngsters' eyes lit up. The meaning was, as long as they completed the mission, they would be able to teach that Ji Tsongtian a harsh lesson? Facing the youngsters' hopeful gazes, Yi Qing Luo chose to ignore them as she intentionally didn't say anything. Following that, she looked at Long Yunzhan. Group leader, what's our mission? 10 missions. Long Yunzhan's voice was calm as he said faintly, 7 missions are to kill high-leveled magical beasts and obtain their magical beast cores, skin and bones. Among them we need 2 wolf beasts and we need wolf teeth and fur. 3 bear beasts, we need the entire bear beast and not a single part can be missing. There's another one that's more difficult. The Mercenary Union has specifically suggested that I choose carefully, which is to kill 2 goshawks. The youths were all dumbfounded. Their legs froze on the spot, not daring to move. kill a high-level magical beast? Are you sure you're not joking? It was a wolf beast, berserk beasts and eagle beast. Not to mention 7. Even if just one high-level magical beast came, they would probably suffer. Furthermore, he wanted to kill the goshawk demonic beast? Oh my god! Do you know what the goshawk is capable of? That was a bird flying in the sky. How could they possibly kill it? The youths gulped nervously. After a long while, they finally found their voices and asked in a trembling voice, What about the other 3 missions? Dig out the herbs at the edge of the gap between the 5th and 6th levels. As soon as this mission was announced, the youths' faces immediately became lifeless. These F*King quests were all deadly quests. Don't look at how easy it was to dig up the medicinal herbs. The key was, it was at the edge between the 5th and 6th lines. That was the place where magical beasts were most likely to appear. Especially in the magical beast forest, all the medicinal herbs were under the control of the magical beasts. If they were to dig the medicinal herbs and attracted the magical beast's attention. Chapter 577. Yiqing Luo's eyes were in deep thoughts as she regrouped all these missions in her mind. Based on the youngsters' abilities, if they were to split into 5 people to deal with high-leveled magical beasts, it was not possible. High-leveled magical beasts as compared to intermediate-leveled magical beasts was not just a difference of 1 level. Why not? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she discussed with Long Yunzhan, group leader, 7 high-leveled magical beasts. It's too dangerous to split them up. Why not we do the same mission together? Splitting them up was not only dangerous, but to the youngsters it was too strenuous. But 60 over people working together to deal with 1 high-leveled magical beast, as long as there was a good command and coordination, the efficiency would be much higher than splitting them up to hunt the magical beast. Long Yunzhan nodded. This way, it's beneficial to train everyone's coordination. The youngsters naturally didn't have any opinion on the method which group leader and assistant group leader had discussed. Moreover, working together in a team was indeed safer and it could nurture everyone's rapport. Everyone on the 5th level didn't dare to act like what they did on the 4th level, swaggering in the forest, not fearing the magical beasts at all. Everyone walked extremely carefully. The youngsters with higher perceptive sense and faster speed led the way in front while the 60 over youngsters followed behind. Whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest walked at the back of the crowd. The few of them didn't say a single word but carefully sized up these youngsters' expressions, as well as their vigilance and reaction when facing danger. Occasionally, when they saw some rare medicinal herbs, Yiqing Luo and Bei Ming Lu would drop out of the group and quietly harvest them. The duo's coordination wasn't too bad as they didn't cause any disturbances among the magical beasts. In the process of heading towards the mission, they harvested over 10 types of medicinal herbs. Following that, they caught up with the group. The mission to kill 2 wolf beasts was considered as the easiest among the 3 types of magical beasts. But the youngsters expressed the immense pressure. High-leveled wolf beasts were around the size of an adult tiger. Their fangs were sharp and their claws were sharp, especially their speed was extremely fast. Most importantly, wolf beasts were pack animals. They had no way to attract a single wolf beast to one side for hunting. Once one wolf beast was attracted, the rest of the wolf beasts would instantly rush over. By then, if they were surrounded by 10 over high-leveled wolf beasts, it wouldn't be them hunting the wolf beasts, but the wolf beasts would be preying on them. Wolf beasts have their own territory. As long as we lure the high-ranked wolf beasts out of their territory, then we can make our move. The other high-ranked wolf beasts won't be able to rush over. Yiqing Luo recalled that in the books which she had read at Ghost Doctor's place, it had recorded this part of the magic beast forest. Because there were many rare medicinal herbs in the 5th level, the book specifically recorded the method of obtaining medicinal herbs. It was specially marked that the magical beasts of the 5th level all had their own territories. If an alchemist was discovered by a territory's magical beast while picking medicinal herbs, all the magical beasts in the territory would attack. However, if they escaped from the territory of the magical beasts, the pursuing magical beasts would give up on their pursuit. Of course, the beast tide was not an unstable factor. When Long Yunjian heard that, his handsome brows creased slightly as his azure blue eyes revealed some puzzlement, as though he didn't understand how Yiqing Luo knew about the matters regarding the magical beast's territory. When the other youths heard this, they saw Baiming Liancheng's eager expression. "Group leader, vice group leader, let me try." The youth's face was filled with excitement and agitation. He did not cower or try to be brave at all. He exuded an aura of confidence. Chapter 578. Baiming Liancheng's skills weren't bad at all. After coming out from Death God Castle, he had consecutively risen by 2 levels and his skills had become even more agile. After obtaining Long Yunjian's permission, he leapt up and burrowed into the bushes. In a blink of an eye, he had already lost track of him. His presence seemed to have disappeared. The youngsters searched for a long time and released their senses. They couldn't sense Baiming Liancheng's presence at all. Yiqing Luo nodded her head satisfactorily. No wonder Baiming Liancheng dared to volunteer himself, so he had this ability. He was able to conceal his presence completely, blending into one with the surrounding environment. Like a chameleon, he was able to conceal himself at all times. Baiming Liancheng hid in the dark as he kept nearing the wolf pack. Not too long later, he saw 10 wolf beasts gathering by the stream to drink water. This stream flowed down from the 7th level all the way to the 1st level. There were only 2 such streams in the entire magic beast forest for the magic beasts to draw water from. 10 wolf beasts would raise their heads from time to time as their mouths gave out sharp howls. After howling for a while, they bent over to drink water. Groping around, after about half an incense's time, those 10 wolf beasts left in a group. Just at this moment, the last wolf beast howled as its entire body was flung out fiercely. That wolf beast, which was the size of a tiger, directly broke a thick and sturdy tree. Awu, waves and waves of wolf howls rang continuously. The wolf pack's sharp eyes looked around as their noses twitched, but they didn't smell anything strange nearby, nor did they smell any dangerous presence. After howling for some time, eventually these wolf beasts all gave up. But that wolf beast which was flung out suddenly opened its eyes as it revealed an ominous glint as its mouth opened wide, revealing its sharp fangs. Its huge fat body slowly got up from the ground. Following that, its gaze stared towards a certain direction in the depths of the forest as its body shot out like an arrow as it charged forward. The pack of wolf beasts behind didn't understand what was going on. By the time they wanted to catch up with their companion's footsteps, they had already lost sight of that wolf beast. Yiqing Luo and the rest stood at their original spots, waiting for Baiming Liancheng. Everyone was curious. What method would Baiming Liancheng use to lure one wolf beast over? At this moment, a figure suddenly sprang out from the bushes. At the same time, Yiqing Luo shouted, "Spread out, surround them." The youngsters in the world group had long developed the habit of moving subconsciously when they heard orders. Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's command, everyone swiftly dispersed, forming an encirclement. A huge wolf beast leaped into their encirclement. What was going on? It really was a wolf beast, a lone wolf beast? Why are you still in a daze? Attack! Yiqing Luo's cold voice rang out sharply. Only then did the youths come to their senses. They gripped the weapons in their hands and began to attack the wolf beast. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi commanded while Yiqing Luo retreated to one side. She looked at Baiming Liancheng, who was wiping his sweat. There was still a trace of shock on his face, but when he saw the youths kill that wolf beast together, his eyes were filled with satisfaction. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled slightly as she walked over and lightly patted his shoulder. "Liancheng, you've done well." This encouragement was extremely light, extremely slow, and contained a tinge of gentleness. Baiming Liancheng's body stiffened as the hand which was wiping his sweat squatted on his forehead. He turned his head and met with Yi Qing Luo's smiling eyes. Chapter 579. She had to admit that Baiming Liancheng's reaction was fast, and he was an intelligent person. After Yi Qing Luo got closer to him, she smelled a trace of medicinal herb smell from him. This smell was what she smelled when they passed by the other beast clan's territories. Yi Qing Luo roughly guessed the method which Baiming Liancheng used. The wolf beast just now must have been attracted by the smell of the herbs. Yi Qing Luo patted his shoulder once again as she revealed a gentle smile. Go on. Baiming Liancheng's eyes shone slightly as he nodded his head vigorously and immediately dived into the bushes to search for the next wave of wolf pack. This method could only be used once for the same wave of wolf pack. Otherwise, the second time, these magical beasts, which had their own consciousness, would definitely discover something amiss. Yi Qing Luo turned around and looked at the youngsters who were struggling with the wolf beast. At this moment, she didn't know that her one encouragement made a youngster's inner heart gradually become strong and filled with hope. Using the same method, the youngsters hunted 2 wolf beasts and sliced the corpses according to their body parts, placing them into their space bags in batches. After 2 consecutive wolf beasts, the youngsters were already exhausted. Yi Qing Luo had already found an empty space with a huge rock for everyone to rest and replenish their energy. 1 hour later, the youngsters started their journey. The last time Yi Qing Luo came here, she had already memorized the rough topography of the magic beast forest in her mind. She directly led the youngsters towards the bear beast's territory. Occasionally, there were several advanced leveled magical beasts walking around. Yi Qing Luo and the others carefully avoided them. It was until they entered the boundary of the bear beast's territory when they stopped in their tracks. Yi Qing Luo used the mercenary group badge to transmit her understanding towards the bear beast to the youngsters. Bear beasts were solitary magical beasts and didn't have the awareness of their companions. These bear beasts, when they met their own kind, would not hesitate to attack their own kind. So if they wanted to deal with the bear beast, even if the other bear beasts saw them, they wouldn't help. Of course, there was a possibility that after they killed the bear beast, they would snatch the bear beast's corpse and attack the mercenary group. When the youngsters heard that, their gazes towards the bear beast were filled with battle passion. The body of the advanced bear beast was as tall as a tree that 3 people could carry when it stood up. When it walked, the ground shook continuously. Yi Qing Luo saw that everyone was ready and with a command, she directly led the youngsters as they charged towards a bear beast. The bear's attacks were swift and powerful. It clearly looked extremely cumbersome, but its movements were shockingly agile. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, the 60-odd people finally managed to take down a bear beast. Luckily, Yi Qing Luo had specially lured the bear beasts to a corner of the bear beast's territory, so it didn't attract the attention of the other bear beasts. The requirement of the mission was that they needed the bear's entire body, not a single part missing. However, if he didn't cut up this huge bear, his spatial pocket wouldn't be able to contain it. Everyone's vision fell onto Yi Qing Luo. They remembered that Yi Qing Luo had a realm ring in her hands which could store many things without any restrictions. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched helplessly. She had long planned to place the entire bear beast's corpse into the profound phoenix ring. Just as she was about to head up and keep the bear beast into the profound phoenix ring, she heard an exasperated shout behind her. "It's you bunch of trash mercenary group again." As the saying goes, enemies wouldn't meet unless they were enemies. Weren't these people the Blue Dragon mercenary group, which they had just met at the 4th level? Chapter 580. Yi Qing Luo suddenly had a bad premonition. Blue Dragon mercenary group's mission, surely it couldn't be a bear beast, right? If this was really the case, then their battle with Blue Dragon mercenary group would probably be brought forward. Indeed, in the next second, she saw Ji Tsong Tian leading a group of people as they walked up in quick step. His vision swept past that bear beast's corpse on the ground as his eyes sparkled with a strange glint. Ji Tsong Tian had a different view towards this group. He originally thought that these youngsters were merely gathered together to find some fun. Moreover, looking at them, all of them were obviously frail people without the strength to truss a chicken. Even if they looked handsome and dainty, that didn't change the fact that their cultivations were low. But this group of trash which he looked down on actually managed to kill a bear beast. Jitsong Tian hadn't even said a word when a group member beside him had already raised his voice as he spoke out sharply. "Trash group, you actually dare to snatch the item required for the mission with Blue Dragon Mercenary Group? This bear beast belongs to us Blue Dragon Mercenary Group." Jitsong Tian frowned and was just about to say something. But on seeing Lan Ling Nua, who was sitting on the wolf beast's back, he recalled her sad look when she was crying in his arms earlier, so he stopped his mouth. That's right, this was merely a mercenary group formed by a bunch of trash. Since they dared to offend Blue Dragon and dared to make Sister Nua into such a disheveled state, then they must pay the appropriate price. This bear beast, don't even talk about whether it was the item required for their mission. Even if it wasn't, he, Jitsong Tian, was determined to get it. Anyway, this kind of matter often happened between mercenary group. But when that group member's words entered the world group's youngsters' ears, it incited everyone's dissatisfaction. Tong Ziqing's expression was cold as she berated coldly. This bear beast was obviously killed by us first, so naturally it belongs to us. You killed it? The group member sneered. What evidence do you have to prove that you killed it? Who would believe that? If I say it's killed by us Blue Dragon Mercenary Group, then this magical beast is our mission item. This was obviously a robber's theory. The world group's youngsters' expressions instantly turned extremely ugly as all of them clenched their fists tightly, wishing that they could rush up and give them a good beating. Damn it! Did they need to be so open about snatching things? Did they need to speak such blatant lies? Shameless to the extreme. Their worldview had been refreshed. They didn't make a move, as they kept observing Yi Qing Luo's intentions. They remembered Yi Qing Luo's words. Everything had to be prioritized. They had just killed the bear beast and were currently exhausted. If they were to really clash with the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group now, they would definitely not be able to gain any benefits. But to let them swallow this grievance, they really could not do it. Yi Qing Luo's expression remained calm as her charming eyes stared coldly at Jitsong Tian, as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. After a while, she blinked her charming eyes, and a soft, almost inaudible laugh escaped from her lips. Heh! Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. This is my first time seeing such a shameless mercenary group. She lightly tapped her pink lips with her hand, revealing a charming expression. Tilting her head, her eyes curved. But that's true. With a shameless leader, there will naturally be a shameless team. You. Jitsong Tian's face turned steely green as he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to fire the cannon directly onto him. Chapter 581. The World Group? Jitsong Tian's expression changed once again. The group which he had always regarded as trash was actually the World Group? Towards the World Group's name, some middle and lower-ranked mercenary groups in the mercenary world had all heard of it. He naturally had heard of the World Group before. Damn it! Why hadn't he thought of it from the start? It was rumored that the World Group's members were formed by a group of 17 to 18-year-old young men and ladies, and all of them were handsome and beautiful. Whereas the World Group's group leader was an outstanding temperament and an ice-cold-looking blue-eyed man. There was also a vice group leader who was an exquisite-looking young lady with enchanting brows and eyes, possessing a peerless beauty. These people in front of them, didn't they fit these rumors? He actually treated the other party as a trash group. Just based on 60 over youngsters, they accepted a high-grade rare mission and directly rose to a bronze plate mercenary group. Could be seen just how much honor points that high-grade rare mission rewarded. The higher the honor points, the higher the difficulty of that mission, which was totally impossible to complete. But the World Group managed to do it. They broke the Mercenary Association's legend of the number one mercenary group, which had always been worshipped as a god group, replacing it to become the second legend. Ji Tsongtian's heart started to feel apprehensive. He even felt a little terrified and uneasy as he didn't want to have any more clashes with this group. Qualifications? Just based on you, do you even have the qualifications to talk about qualifications with Brother Tsongtian? Lan Ling Nua stared fiercely at Dmo Xian. She remembered that it was this man who threw her out earlier. It was merely because of inertia that she accidentally fell into his arms. As a man, facing a beauty throwing herself into his arms, shouldn't he take the chance to be a hero to save the beauty? She didn't despise him for his ordinary looks and ugly looks, allowing him to touch her beautiful body, and he actually despised her? Since young, Lan Ling Nua had never suffered such humiliation before. Brother Tsongtian, snatch the magical beast back. Teach them a fierce lesson. Lan Ling Nua clenched her fists tightly as she suppressed the malevolent expression on her face, trying her best to put on a coquettish attitude. She wasn't a mercenary group member and didn't understand what the world group was, nor did she know what glorious deeds were there under the heavens. Moreover, under Ji Tsongtian's daily bragging, Lan Ling Nua unanimously agreed that Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was an especially powerful mercenary group. How could these young and small mercenary groups be compared to Blue Dragon Mercenary Group? Ji Tsongtian's original intention to retreat started to hesitate again. Lan Ling Nua obviously bore a grudge against the world group. If he chose to retreat now, wouldn't his sister No laugh at him for being useless? He knew better than anyone else how he usually boasted about the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group in front of Lan Ling Nua. Otherwise, Lan Ling Nua wouldn't have followed them to the magical beast forest. Originally, he wanted to show off his prowess in front of Lan Ling Nua and then express his love for her. He had loved Lan Ling Nua for such a long time. How could he destroy everything now? No man was willing to let the woman he loved look down on him. Ji Tsongtian clenched his fists tightly as he straightened his back and stood in front of his group members, looking at Yiqing Luo arrogantly. If you know what's good for you, bring your men and leave this place now, otherwise. Don't blame this group leader for not showing any mercy. That arrogant look, forcing himself to put on a fearless look, made Yiqing Luo laugh. She had been observing Blue Dragon Mercenary Group and observing Ji Tsongtian. Ji Tsongtian must have heard of the World Group's name. He was also fearful of the World Group. Chapter 582. Even now, although there was no fear on Ji Tsongtian's face, but if one took a closer look at his slightly trembling body, one would still be able to tell. Seeing that the leader had spoken, the member became even more spirited. As if he had found a backer, he shouted again, "Did you hear that? Our guild leader is magnanimous and won't bicker with your trashy team. Get lost right now." Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she didn't even bother to take a look at Ji Tsongtian. She directly bent down as her feather fan touched the bear beast's corpse slightly. A fluorescent light flickered, and the huge bear carcass disappeared in the blink of an eye. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members all opened their eyes wide, as even using their toes to guess that Yiqing Luo must have done something to this bear beast's corpse. This action was obviously provoking them on purpose. "You, how dare you?" That group member was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he pointed at Yiqing Luo and berated, "You even dare to snatch our Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's mission item, don't blame us for bullying you." They spoke righteously, as if they were the ones who had killed the bear beast. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she turned around and walked deeper into the eerie cold. How could the members behind him endure such provocation? This woman in front of him actually dared to look down on him. He wanted her to pay a painful price. That member clenched the weapon in his hand tightly as he directly flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo turned around with her back, facing the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. The surrounding the World Group members were all looking at this scene. Not knowing if they were all silly or what, No one actually reminded Yi Qing Luo. As for Yi Qing Luo, she didn't seem to know that there was someone sneak attacking her from behind. Lan Ling Nua sat on the back of the wolf beast and watched the scene in front of her. A hint of elation flashed past her eyes. It's this kind of team. When their boss is being ambushed, they can only stand by and watch. This is retribution. She was hinting at the fourth level. Yi Qing Luo and the rest were leisurely chatting by the side, while the other youngsters were clearing the way around them. When the members of Blue Dragon Mercenary Group heard this, they felt that it made sense. This was retribution. The members of this useless team put themselves in a high and mighty position, ordering their own team members around as they pleased. He deserved to be abandoned by his own team members. Just as Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members thought that Yi Qing Luo was dead for sure. The ambushing member suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. With a whoosh, the figure was kicked into the bushes at the side. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was accompanied by the painful wails of the regiment member. It was extremely ear-piercing. What was going on? Ji Tsongtian's gaze subconsciously fell onto Yi Qing Luo. However, the slender figure still had her back facing them as she returned to the middle of Long Yunzhan's group before turning around. At the instant when she turned around to look at him, Ji Tsongtian obviously saw a deep sense of ridicule in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Yes, it was mockery. Laughing at his incompetence. Mocking their mercenary group for overestimating themselves. That shameful feeling exploded forth in that instant. Ji Tsongtian was so angry that he was trembling. The current him didn't care if the group in front of him was that famous mercenary group or not. He only knew that he could not let go of anyone who mocked him. Otherwise Blue Dragon Mercenary Group wouldn't have a foothold in the mercenary world. He wanted to kill Yi Qing Luo. He wanted to make Yi Qing Luo pay a painful price for today's actions. Chapter 583. The other party was just a trashy mercenary group. Why did it feel that? Ji Tsongtian's side had always been on the losing end? Moreover, they were controlled by the other party until they had no way to resist. Earlier, they didn't even see anyone making a move and all Lu was sent flying. Lan Ling Nua started to suspect if what Ji Tsongtian said was true or not. Suddenly, she started to regret listening to Ji Tsongtian's words, abruptly following him into the magic beast forest. Seeing his beloved woman's suspicious gaze, Ji Tsongtian's pride suffered a serious blow. A gush of nameless fury started burning. He clenched his fists tightly as he stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, shouting out sharply, "Snatch our bear beast back, let them witness the power of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group." Yi Qing Luo and the others looked at Ji Tsongtian as though they were looking at a bunch of clowns. Although the youngsters were already very tired. But the thought of being able to teach these arrogant Blue Dragon Mercenary Group a lesson, all of them were as excited as though they were injected with chicken blood. Motherf ****. They had wanted to beat them up for a long time, all right. If it wasn't for Madame Qing Luo's words, they absolutely would have charged up right now. These youngsters, under Yi Qing Luo's influence, all understood one logic. That was battle. The most realistic battle. Which was now their battle with the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group. The reason why the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was able to walk till now, to become a Bronze Plate Mercenary Group, was because the group leader and members' characters were a little conceited. But there was no way to deny that they had absolute ability. To be able to battle with them, they should be able to gain quite a bit of upgrade. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as she was about to say something. Suddenly her ears moved slightly as her vision seemed to have touched something. Her eyes suddenly narrowed as she gave a tender shout, "Retreat immediately." Her expression became solemn. Dmo Xian and Long Yunzhan's expressions instantly sunk as their gazes shot towards the direction of that member called Lu at the same time. When those youngsters who were rubbing their palms heard that, they went into a blank as they speedily followed Yi Qing Luo's instructions, retreating into the depths of the forest. This action, in the eyes of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members, was because they were afraid of their ability and wanted to escape. These group members had always been proud and arrogant, and earlier they were humiliated by Yi Qing Luo and the others, so why would they let them off? Under Ji Tsong Tian's command, the group of them immediately wanted to chase up. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the bushes behind him. It was Lu's voice. Ji Tsong Tian and the others stopped in their tracks as they turned their heads over. Only to see a huge, pitch-black object poking its head out from the bushes. When he stood up, he was as tall as a mountain. It was a beast, a pitch-black beast. Its legs stood on the ground, and one of its claws hooked Alu up with only one nail. Alu was already a 25-year-old adult man with a tall and sturdy figure. But compared to the giant beast's fingernails, it seemed so tiny. He was as small as an ant. Without any explanation, the giant beast stuffed the person it was hooking onto into its mouth. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere. Alu didn't even let out a scream before he was chewed up and swallowed into the belly of the giant beast. All the members of the group were scared silly. What kind of monster was this? It actually swallowed a living person just like that? Just as they were in a daze, that giant beast started to move once again as it walked out of the forest. Just one step and it covered a long distance. Chapter 584. Under Yi Qing Luo's reminder, the World Group's youngsters retreated to a safe place, avoiding the helpless fate of being trampled to death by the huge beast. Ji Tsong Tian swiftly reacted as he pulled Lan Ling Nua, who was sitting on the mount, into his arms. Following that, he sped towards the World Group's direction. When the other group members saw that, all of them started to rush over in terror. Oh my God! What the hell was this thing? They had been in the Magic Beast Forest for so many years and had never seen this kind of magical beast in the 5th level. When Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members rushed over, the World Group's youngsters were simply cursing in their hearts. They couldn't help but wanted to curse this bunch of shameless people. Ah Xian! Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as she tugged Dmo Xian's sleeve as her pair of charming eyes congealed on that huge beast. She wouldn't easily open her mouth to Dmo Xian. But under this situation, she had to open her mouth. This huge beast was too dangerous. She might be able to use blink movement to avoid this huge beast's attack, but the World Group's youngsters were not able to do so. Moreover, unless it was the last resort, she really didn't want to use the blink movement secret art. Let's not talk about the fact that this secret art was used to save her life. Just the fact that every time she used it, she would be caught red-handed and was even recognized by others. This secret art, if possible, Yi Qing Luo would try not to use it. The huge beast's speed was simply too fast. Its one step was equivalent to everyone releasing all their profound chi and sprinting for 10 meters. But in just a few short moments, another 10 over Blue Dragon Group's members died tragically under the huge beast's feet. There were some who were swept by the huge beast's claws and directly thrown into its mouth. The scene was extremely bloody and ferocious. Based on her strength, there was absolutely no way to protect the World Group's youngsters. Yi Qing Luo bit her lower lip tightly as her slender fingers subconsciously clasped Dmo Xian's arm tightly. She was too weak. The bigger the responsibility, the more she felt that she was too weak. After she returned to the academy, she wanted to head to the spiritual Qi treasure land and enter the Azure Dew bracelet to first break through her profound grade to Earth profound realm. Dmo Xian's palm was warm as it gently covered Yi Qing Luo's eyes. His voice was calm without any ripples, but Yi Qing Luo could hear his concern. "It's okay, I'm here." Just 4 simple words made Yi Qing Luo's heart tremble suddenly. Dmo Xian's palm blocked her vision and it was pitch black. She blinked. Her long, curly eyelashes brushed past his palm like a small brush. Shortly after, the sounds of the youth's heaving sighs of relief could be heard. Yi Qing Luo grabbed onto Dmo Xian's palm with both hands, only to see the World Group's youngsters and Blue Dragon Group's members all squeezing over. Although the youths were saying nasty things and ridiculing the group members, they still made way for them to have a place to stand. Not long after, this small piece of flat ground was filled with people. As for the giant beast, it kept raising its foot, trying to step on them. However, the huge foot that was lifted up seemed to be blocked by something and was bounced back. The giant beast's body swayed, and like a collapsing mountain, it fell straight back. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening sound reverberated along with the entire magic beast forest shaking. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe it as the earth quaking and mountains shaking. It was an enchantment. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes towards the sky, and she could faintly see a transparent ray of light, appearing and disappearing indistinctly. When did Dmo Xian conjure the enchantment? Chapter 585. What is that thing? The group members heaved a sigh of relief as their legs were so weak that they couldn't even stand properly. They had all witnessed their own comrades being eaten up by that huge beast, being trampled to death by that huge beast without any chance to resist at all. They didn't know how long this barrier could last for. If there wasn't a barrier, wouldn't they all die under this huge beast's feet? Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she stared at that huge beast which was crawling up, as her eyes narrowed slightly. After some time, she released Dmo Xian's arm. Let me take a look at the surrounding situation. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he tried to grab her arm. Even he didn't know where this huge beast came from, so it was too dangerous to leave the barrier rashly. I'll ride on Little Nine and take a look in midair. Nothing will happen. Saying that, Yiqing Luo sat on Little Nine's back. One man and one beast left the barrier and flew straight into midair. After leaving the barrier, Yiqing Luo then sensed a gust of stinky wild wind blowing continuously. That huge beast had already stood up and once again attacked towards the direction of the barrier. Yiqing Luo gazed afar and saw that not too far behind the huge beast, densely packed magical beasts were surging over. Just like a beast tide, surging forward in an extremely turbulent manner. What the? Forget about a heaven-defying huge beast, there was even a huge wave of magical beasts? They were going to be trapped in the magic beast forest to death. Lass. Suddenly Old Man Tsang's voice rang in her mind. This is troublesome. Not just troublesome, it was huge trouble. That magical beast. If I didn't recognize wrongly, it should be a 7th level advanced leveled mirage beast. Child Een. Old Man Tsang's tone rose, apparently shocked by this huge beast. Even if it's a sky mystic overlord strong practitioner going against Child Een, they would also be at a disadvantage, not to mention you all. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed with shock when she heard that. Her eyes suddenly widened as she stared unbelievably at that huge beast in front of her as her heart thumped. Even a sky mystic overlord is unable to go against it? 7th level. That magic beast forest's legendary level. Till now, no one had ever returned alive after entering the 7th level. How did this Child Een run from the 7th level to the 5th level? In the tens of millions of years of history of the magical beast forest, aside from large-scale beast tides, magical beasts would never cross the boundary that belonged to them. Moreover, even if it was a beast tide, it would at most be 1 level higher. This Child Een, could it be? Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly sunk as her penetrating eyes reflected a cold glint, her eyes swiftly circling the surroundings. It was simply impossible for a high-level phantom beast of the 7th level to appear on the 5th level. But if this high-level mirage beast was led here by someone, and the target was them, it was not impossible. Yiqing Luo's vision surveyed the surroundings alertly, as she carefully avoided Child Een. Vaguely, Yiqing Luo seemed to have seen a figure among the densely packed magical beasts. When she looked over again, the figure had disappeared without a trace. It was as if it was just an illusion. An illusion? Yiqing Luo frowned as her gaze turned chilly. No, it can't be an illusion. The appearance of these magical beasts and Child Een was indeed premeditated. Was it a ploy by the dark forces? To annihilate everyone who knew about the dark forces' comeback? Like how they massacred the marketplace to destroy the world group. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she patted little Nine. The man and beast returned to the array barrier once again. Chapter 586. Child Yin. Dmo Xian's expression changed abruptly as that pair of eyes which were filled with brilliance turned biting cold. His brows creased as he looked outside the array barrier at the huge beasts which kept on attacking. It's actually Child Yin. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her slender hand hooked onto Dmo Xian's arm as she suppressed her voice. There's a huge batch of magical beasts coming over, it seems to be a beast tide. This time round, it would be hard for them to escape from this calamity. Yiqing Luo had always assumed that Dmo Xian's profound grade should be above Sky Mystic, which was Sky Mystic Overlord. Old Man Tsang said that Sky Mystic Overlord's strong exponents were unable to subdue Child Yin. Indeed, when Dmo Xian heard that the huge beast was Child Yin, his brows creased into a bundle as his gaze turned vicious. If Dmo Xian was unable to deal with the huge beast, then her brothers. Yiqing Luo recalled that fleeting figure which disappeared amidst the surging magical beasts earlier. Her gaze suddenly turned gloomy as though it was covered with frost. We've been plotted against. She squeezed out every single word from the slits of her teeth. Mn. Dmo Xian responded calmly as he stared at Child Yin without any change in his expression. Child Yin is a 7th level high-leveled mirage beast, and its ability is unfathomable. Furthermore, this mirage beast's nature is extremely lazy. Even if the magical beast forest had collapsed, it might not leave its own nest. If it wasn't for the fact that someone had used extreme methods to awaken Child Yin from its nest, and was able to lead Child Yin who was lazy by nature would not be able to cross the 6th level to attack them at the 5th level. Not too long later, those magical beasts had already dashed to the back of Child Yin. Instantly, the entire outer boundary of the array barrier was surrounded by densely packed magical beasts. The magical beasts charged at the barrier one after another. After being bounced back, another wave of magical beasts charged at them. When Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members saw this situation, all of them were dazed. The array barrier was transparent, and when these magical beasts charged over, everyone couldn't help but touch their own bodies, feeling that they were about to be trampled by the magical beast. Their bodies were weak and many of them had already collapsed onto the ground, unable to stand up. Stay further away from me. Who allowed you to touch my noble body? Just when everyone was in a state of panic, a woman's sharp and angry rebuke suddenly rang out. Then, he heard a commotion from the side. Some of the Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members could not stand steadily as they fell to the side. This piece of flat ground was not spacious to begin with. After accommodating more than 100 people, it became extremely crowded. Furthermore, they didn't dare to get too close to Yiqing Luo and the others, hence, those group members all huddled together. When one of them fell, he bumped into the other. A few other members were squeezed out of the barrier and were instantly torn to shreds by the berserk magical beasts. Everyone was horrified. Once they left the barrier, what awaited them would be nothing left of them. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group's members didn't dare to move at all. One by one, they glared at the person who had stirred up trouble, Lan Lingnua. The current Lan Lingnua was sitting on a huge rock and Ji Tsangtian was surrounding her. Lan Lingnua straightened her long robe, her face filled with disgust and disdain. What are you staring at? If it wasn't for your group leader, would I even be here today? I'm telling you, if you dare to ruin this beautiful face of mine, leaving a scar on my body, my father will absolutely not let you off. The current herd didn't have a single bit of delicateness from before.